Chapter 979. Xingqiu shot a deep look at Tan Xiu before he turned to the old man and whispered. He didn't pay much attention to China's affairs, so it was natural that he had never heard of Tan Xiu's name. At this time, he was like a fish on the chopping block. The toxin in his body was spreading at an extremely fast speed. He couldn't fight back even if he wanted to. After a long while, Xingqiu looked at Tan Xiu and asked in a deep voice, "Will you retreat immediately if I pass the patriarch position to Xingluan?" "That's right. We don't have any enmity with your dark shaman clan." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Our visit to your clan this time is just to help Xingluan take the patriarch seat of your clan. We won't stay here to tangle with you if our goal has been achieved." "What about the antidote?" asked Xingqiu slowly. Tan Xiu took out a porcelain bottle and threw it to Xingqiu, saying, "This is the antidote. However, the poison in your body is very special and can't be completely removed for the time being. Therefore, you'll need to take the antidote once a year. I'll give Xingluan 10 years' worth of the antidote. If you don't cause trouble for him within 10 years and obey his orders, I'll naturally remove the poison in your body." "What?" Xingqiu and the old man's complexion drastically changed. Even the faces of more than a dozen senior members of the Dark Shaman clan turned livid. They glared at Tan Xiu, but none of them dared to say anything that would offend Tan Xiu. At this moment, their bodies were getting weaker and they even felt faint pain all over their bodies. "Don't misunderstand me. I don't want to control your lives. I'm just thinking about Xingluan," said Tan Xiu with a straight face. "He's weak in your clan. What if you bully him after I leave? Therefore, you only have two choices now: continue to resist and die without a burial place, or give the position to Xingluan and see him as the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. Not only will you get benefits, but you can also witness the Dark Shaman clan getting stronger and stronger." The old man paced 2 steps toward Tan Xiu and said, "You're Tan Xiu, right? You kept saying that giving the patriarch position to Xingluan will be very beneficial to us. What I want to know now is, what kind of benefits can we get? If we trade sorcerer's stones with you in the future, will the medicinal pills we get be as powerful as Xingluan said?" "If you don't believe me, I'll give you sorcerer's stones," replied Tan Xiu calmly. 200 sorcerer's stones for 1 medicinal pill. "What?" The old man's expression changed drastically, and his eyes revealed a look of disbelief. The old man's expression drastically changed and he was filled with incredulity. This was simply demanding an exorbitant price. Did he take himself for a fool? Xingluan shot a surprised look at Tang Xiu and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's going on, Mr. Tang?" Tan and Tan Xiu, and said. "Singing singly," Tan Xiu interrupted, "I said. Singly, I Tan Singman said. 2. Tan, added saying, Tan, I have to be. You must be prepared to be slaughtered if you want to get the medicinal pill from me." Xingluan instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning and shot him a grateful look. He felt that it was a great fortune for him to know Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and continued, "Xingluan does have a lot of medicinal pills, but I gave them to him in advance. Now, I'm waiting for him to pay with sorcerer's stones. I'm sure he won't be stingy if he becomes the patriarch of your Dark Shaman clan." Xingluan was shaken inwardly and his gratitude toward Tan Xiu deepened. He realized that Tan Xiu was helping him to gain the recognition of his clan. All of a sudden, he realized that everything Tang Xiu did ever since he came to Bangkok was to help him. Whether it was making friends with Bangkok's underworld emperor Kanaja or coming to his family, Tang Xiu's purpose was all for his own good. What a true brother. Xingluan compared his elder brother, Xingqiu, with Tan Xiu. He found that Xingqiu was a villain who harbored evil intentions toward him, whereas Tan Xiu regarded him as a brother. Tan Xiu couldn't figure out what Xingluan was thinking. He looked at the somewhat absent-minded Xingluan and reminded him, "Xingluan, it's time for you to declare your position." Xingluan woke up from his absent-mindedness and shot a deep look at Tan Xiu. Then, he glanced at the clan's top brass and spoke in a deep voice, "Grandpa, Father, and all the elders of the clan. You've watched me grow up and I've never harmed the interests of our clan from the beginning to the end. But my elder brother, Sinquo, has always regarded me as a thorn in his side and can't wait to get rid of me. I don't want to die, but I can't be compared with Sinquo in terms of strength and power. That's why I can only resist and rely on Mr. Tang's power. Had it been before, I wouldn't have dared to dream about becoming the patriarch of the clan. But ever since I got the pill refined by Mr. Tang, my cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds. I'm now at least 10 times stronger than before. As for my subordinates, such as the 5 guardian elders, their strength has increased by leaps and bounds because they took the medicinal pills. They now possess great power. So, since I can change the cultivation of me and my subordinates, why can't I change the strength of the entire clan and make the overall strength of the Dark Shaman clan a step further? I promise you that if I become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, I'll definitely make all of you break through to a higher level within 3 months. If I can't fulfill my promise today, I'm willing to give up the patriarch position and return it to my father. I'll also withdraw from the Dark Shaman clan and have nothing to do with the clan in the future. Are you serious? Asked Xingchuo in a deep voice. I'm an adult, so I'll naturally be responsible for my words, said Xingluan solemnly. If I'm lying, I'll be at your disposal, father. Xingchuo looked at his father and found that he nodded to him. Then, he immediately said in a clear voice, I hereby declare that I, Xingchuo, will pass the patriarch position to Xingluan from today onward. He will be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. 3 days later, the clan will hold an ancestral worship ceremony. Mr. Tang, since Xingluan is your friend, I hope you can stay and watch the ceremony. 3 days later. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. He wanted to leave Bangkok as soon as possible and return to Jingmen Island as soon as possible. He wanted to use a secret technique to move Gu Yen, Er's exquisite pagoda to Nine Dragons Island. Ring, 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 his cell phone suddenly rang at this moment. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows and took out his mobile phone. A suspicious look immediately appeared on his face as he picked up the call and asked, "What's up?" Tom Reggie's voice came out of the phone, "Something happened, boss. Someone spread the news that a treasure is about to appear in the sea area near Nine Dragons Island. Moreover, it's a treasure that will bring great benefits to many cultivators. A lot of suspicious foreigners have appeared in Saipan. Almost all of them are in contact with local shipping companies, and some of them have even gone to sea." Tan Xiu's expression changed and a crazy killing intent burst out from his eyes. Nine Dragons Island was located in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. It was absolutely impossible for a treasure to appear there. Whoever spread the news must be harboring evil intentions and wanted to expose Nine Dragons Island to all the cultivators. But now, there were many cultivators in the world. Although the number of cultivators was not that many, there were countless other cultivators, such as ability users, witchcraft cultivators, Buddhist cultivators, and even the alien races in the Dark Parliament. If all the cultivators in the world were to focus their attention on Nine Dragons Island, it would be very difficult to guarantee that the island wouldn't appear under everyone's eyes. At that time, if someone fanned the flames and said that the treasure was on Nine Dragons Island, he would become the enemy of all the cultivation forces. Damn! Those damned Celestial Wizard clan. Tan Xiu clenched his fists and a crazy killing intent burst out from his eyes. He had to admit that the Celestial Wizard clan's methods were too ruthless. They actually wanted all the cultivation forces in the world to avenge their clansmen. Perhaps, they even planned to wait for him and the other forces to fight to the point where both sides suffered losses. Then, the Celestial Wizard clan would appear again and directly reap the benefits. At this moment, everyone present shifted their eyes to Tan Xiu with a confused look. They couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu suddenly burst out with such a huge killing intent. "Boss!" Mo Ao strode to Tan Xiu's side and called out in a low voice with a concerned look in his eyes. "Send some people to hunt and assassinate the Celestial Wizard clan," said Tan Xiu in a heavy tone. "Find a way to kill them as long as they leave their clan's land. Whoever kills more Celestial Wizard clansmen will be rewarded more." Also, contact the largest assassin organization in the world. I'm willing to offer a bounty of $1 billion for the lives of the Celestial Wizard clansmen. I'll set the bounty at $1 million for a Celestial Wizard clansman's life. Until $1 billion is used up. Mo's expression changed. They had just fought with the Celestial Wizard clan's powerhouses and routed them, forcing them to flee in panic. Now that the boss issued such an order in a fit of rage, it was very likely that the Celestial Wizard clan had done something to make him angry. I'll contact them right away. Killing intent flashed in Mo's eyes as he strode toward the distance. Tan Xiu shifted to Tang Guang and said in a deep voice, I remember what I told you before, right? Go find Kuo Zi at once and be sure to do what I told you. I'll give you 3 months. 3 months later, I need to see a group of elite troops ready to serve me at any time. I'll go right away, Grand Master. Tang Guang cupped his fists in reply and strode away lightning fast. And, said Tan Xiu again, I'll leave Jin Shi and the rest to you from now on. I don't want the Celestial Wizard clansmen to appear outside their clan's land again. Also, pay attention to the Stygian Club's people and assassinate them if you find any stragglers. I don't want you to leave any traces behind, nor do I want your actions to bring me any trouble. Understood. Chapter 980. As a cold voice filled the air, the black-robed Tang An appeared in front of everyone. She quickly made a hand gesture and Jin Shi's group of 10 immediately followed her away. Tan Xiu stared straight at Xingqiu and the old man and said in a deep voice, I know that your Dark Shaman clan used to belong to the Celestial Wizard clan, but I have a deep grudge with the Celestial Wizard clan. It's an irreconcilable enmity between us. I need your clan to take a stand now. If you still want to recognize your ancestors and return to your clan, then we're enemies. But if you think you have no friendship with the Celestial Wizard clan, then we're friends. Xingqiu's eyes flickered and he said in a deep voice, the experts of the Celestial Wizard clan hunted our ancestors in the past and killed many of our clansmen. I'm afraid we're not clansmen but enemies. The white-haired old man from the Dark Shaman clan continued, Patriarch is right. The Celestial Wizard clan once hunted our ancestors and caused us to suffer heavy losses. It's been so many years, but we haven't forgotten this hatred. It's a pity that our clan is too weak to be compared to the Celestial Wizard clan, else we would have long sought justice for our ancestors. Xingluan took a deep breath and solemnly said, My father is right, Mr. Tang. Our clan has no good impression of the Celestial Wizard clan. We can't wait for them to be destroyed. We won't meddle in the enmity between you and the Celestial Wizard clan. If you can provide us with a lot of pills that can make the strength of all our clan members advance by leaps and bounds, we can even help you if you need it in the future. Xingluan. Xingqiu's expression changed and he shouted fiercely. He didn't want the Dark Shaman clan to get involved in the enmity between Tan Xiu and the Celestial Wizard clan. Despite knowing that Xingluan and Tan Xiu had a close relationship, he still tried to stop them. The old man, Xingqiu's father, had a strange expression on his face and slowly said, I think Xingluan's right, Tua, Our Dark Shaman clan can't seek justice for our ancestors because we're too weak. But if the strength of our clansmen can advance by leaps and bounds, our strength will increase greatly. We can also help Mr. Tang at that time. Xingqiu hurriedly said, Father, this matter. The old man raised his hand to interrupt him. He then looked at Tan Xiu and said, Mr. Tang, we need some pills, but I hope you can exchange them with our Dark Shaman clan at a fair price. Of course, you should have heard from Xingluan that our Dark Shaman clan has very few sorcerer stones. I hope you won't cut off our supply. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I hope all the Dark Shaman clan's top echelons can help me keep today's matter a secret. I don't want my men to hunt the Celestial Wizard clan's clansmen because of your clan. The old man raised his arm and said in a deep voice, Our Dark Shaman clan will keep this a secret for you as long as I'm alive. Otherwise, I will punish you as a traitor. However, I still have a presumptuous request. I hope Mr. Tang can help us. Speak. Tan Xiu nodded and said. Singli is a very senior member of my dark shaman clan. His strength is second only to my son, Xingchuo, said the old man. He has betrayed our clan and is a sinner of our clan. If your men find any traces of him during the operation, I hope you can inform us in time. Don't worry. I'll naturally tell you his whereabouts if I find any news about him, said Tan Xiu. Also, I won't participate in Singluan's abdication as the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch. I hope we'll be friends in the future and not enemies. Alright. The members of the Dark Shaman clan nodded. Although they didn't like Tan Xiu since many of their clansmen had died in Tan Xiu's hands, their lives were now in Tan Xiu's hands. Moreover, they were likely to get benefits from Tan Xiu in the future, so they naturally didn't dare to neglect him. A few minutes later. In order to fulfill his promise, Singluan asked his father to open the Dark Shaman clan's treasury and give all the demon stones he owed to Tan Xiu to Tan Xiu. He even gave a blood obsidian stone to Tan Xiu to thank Tan Xiu for his help. Bangkok, Coconut Plantation. After Tang Xiu returned with Mo, he found Sua Dequan, who was directing his men to clean up the ruins. He saw that the man was sweating profusely and looked fatigued. Tang Xiu took out a porcelain bottle from his interspatial ring, poured a drop of body-refining liquid into it, and then came to him. Mr. Zhua. Upon seeing Tan Xiu's arrival, Sua Dequan immediately looked pleasantly surprised and said with a bit of respect, "You're back, Mr. Tang. Kanaja just left not long ago. He asked me to tell you to visit him when you have time." "I just called him on the way here," said Tan Xiu. "I have an urgent matter to deal with, so I won't be visiting him for the time being. Anyway, I came here to borrow your place to deal with something. I'll leave immediately after I'm done with it." "Here." With a strange expression, Sua Dequan asked, "This place has turned into ruins, Mr. Tang. I've arranged for Qing, and my 2 grandsons to stay in the hotel. What do you want to borrow this place for?" "I need an underground warehouse," said Tan Xiu. "You'll know what I'm going to do with it after I'm done with my work." "You can use it as you wish, Mr. Tang," said Sua Dequan hurriedly. "Also, if you're going to stay here for a long time, I'll immediately send someone to prepare daily necessities and send you meals on time." "I don't need daily necessities, nor do you need to send me meals." Tan Xiu waved his hand. "I won't be staying here for a long time, 2 days at most. I'll leave Bangkok after I'm done with my work and return to China. However, there's one more thing I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with." "Please do tell," said Sua Dequan respectfully. "You already know that my men and I came to Bangkok illegally by sea," said Tan Xiu. "Now that I'm done with my business, I'm in a hurry to return to China, so I'd like to fly back directly. Can you help me apply for a temporary passport? Can you help me with something at the airport?" "It's a bit difficult to apply for a passport, Mr. Tang," said Sua Dequan with an awkward expression. "You're not from Tea country, after all. Besides, I'm not familiar with the airport, so I don't have any connections even if I want to do it." But what?" asked Tan Xiu. "But Kanaja can do it, though," said Sua Dequan. "Even if you don't buy a ticket and don't have a passport and other documents, he can still send you and your men to the plane." "Kanaja?" Recalling Kanaja's identity, Tan Xiu nodded and said, "I'll have to trouble you to help me find Kanaja for this matter. Also, no matter how much gold you get in the next 2 days, you must send it to me as fast as possible. I'll give each of you a magic tool if you have enough gold before I leave." "No problem." Sua Dequan looked pleasantly surprised and immediately grabbed his mobile phone to dial Kanaja's number. Tan Xiu came to the underground warehouse and directly closed the door after entering. Because the ventilation conditions were good, and the lights illuminated the inside, he didn't feel uncomfortable. "Out!" Tan Xiu took out the demon god spirit devourer cauldron from his interspatial ring and placed it in the middle of the warehouse. There were a lot of precious ores in his interspatial ring, but the first thing he needed to do was to extract the essence of the gold. True fire. As Tan Xiu cast a spell, the true fire burned under the demon god spirit devourer cauldron, while a large amount of gold stored in the warehouse was continuously poured into the cauldron under Tan Xiu's control. Smelting gold. It was very simple. He only needed to burn off all the impurities in the gold, leaving only the most essential metal essence. Furthermore, the true fire was very powerful as it melted the gold and formed a trace of metal essence. In just half a day, all the gold in the warehouse was smelted, leaving only a ball of liquid metal essence the size of a ping-pong ball floating in the center of the cauldron. Using this bit of metal essence to refine immortal tools is tantamount to a lunatic's ravings. But if I want to refine magic tools, I can refine a lot of them. Nowadays, the everlasting feast hall has a large population, but weapons are very scarce. Except for the immortal swords Ji Chi Mei gave to Mo Au and the others, only a few people have magic tools. The number of magic tools needed for the whole army will be huge when those children form their combat effectiveness in the future. If this bit of metal essence is properly distributed and blended with other materials, I should be able to refine 20 magic tools. However, 20 magic tools are too few. It seems that I need to rely on Zhuo Dequan and Kanaja's forces to help me get a batch of refining materials. Gold can be smelted into metal essence. Silver can be smelted into silver. Bronze can be smelted into copper essence. Pig iron can be smelted into iron essence. These 4 kinds of mineral deposits were the easiest to find on Earth and were also the most common materials to refine magic tools. As long as the precious ores were added with the smelted essence, a large number of magic tools could be refined. Tan Xiu took out his cell phone and found that there was a signal in the underground warehouse. He immediately dialed Zhuo Dequan and Kanaja's number and told them that he needed a lot of gold, silver, bronze, and pig iron. Then, he began to refine magic tools with the precious ores in his interspatial ring. The sword is the most common weapon for cultivators. I trained a group of powerful subordinates when I was in the immortal world, and almost all of them are good at swords. Tan Xiu was proficient in sword arrays, and the sword array he researched in the past could make his subordinates burst out with terrifying power. 10 people sword array, 100 people sword array, 1,000 people sword array, 10,000 people sword array, and so on. There were even sword arrays suitable for millions of immortals to set up. If Zhuo Dequan and Kanaja can send me a lot of gold, silver, bronze, and pig iron, I'll try to refine hundreds of swords and magic tools in 2 days. Chapter 981. Tan Xiu thought that Zhuo Dequan and Kanaja wouldn't be able to get a lot of refining materials due to the short period of time. However, he was taken aback after just 1 day. A steady stream of container trucks continued to arrive, carrying truckloads of bronze and pig iron into the underground warehouse. The number of porters alone numbered more than 1,000. In addition, large quantities of gold and silver were also delivered, many of which were made into exquisite jewelry. Tan Xiu didn't make a specific calculation, but he estimated that the value of the gold and silver would definitely exceed $100 million if converted into cash. However, the speed at which the gold, silver, copper, and iron were delivered was fast, but the speed at which they were thrown into the demon god spirit devourer cauldron was even faster. As the true fire continued to burn, the gold, silver, copper, and iron essences were continuously extracted and eventually put into jade bottles by Tan Xiu. That's enough. As Tan Xiu called Kanaja and Zhuo Dequan, the container trucks coming from all over Bangkok stopped and the number of porters gradually decreased. Standing in front of the demon god spirit devourer cauldron, Tan Xiu's eyes flickered with a strange light. His impression of Zhuo Dequan was neither good nor bad, but he found Kanaja to be very interesting. This guy was very intelligent and could definitely be regarded as an astute schemer. But he didn't hesitate to invest so much just for a magic tool, which was really beyond his expectations. The refining materials in his interspatial ring, as well as the gold, silver, copper, and iron essences extracted from gold, silver, copper, and iron, were enough for him to refine hundreds of magic longswords. Refining is still a waste of time. Tan Xiu secretly sighed. His eyes swept over the rows of neatly placed jade bottles. When the last pig iron was smelted and turned into iron essences, the jade bottles collected them. He then took out pieces of precious ores from his interspatial ring at lightning speed and threw them into the demon god spirit devourer cauldron. Refining. The most important method was to inscribe array patterns and integrate them into the formed sword embryo. Then, after being calcined by the true fire, it would finally form a perfect magic longsword. Moreover, refining required a lot of mental strength, so Tan Xiu chose to refine multiple magic tools at once. Spirit fuse, sword form. As the lid of the demon god spirit devourer cauldron was lifted by Tan Xiu, 20 magic longswords quickly flew out from the cauldron and hovered around Tan Xiu under the control of his mental strength. Mo, who stood more than 10 meters away, was dumbfounded as he watched the scene of 20 magic swords dancing around Tan Xiu. His mouth gaped open. He knew that Tan Xiu was refining, but he never dreamed that Tan Xiu could refine 20 magic longswords at once. As expected of the boss. His refining skills are simply marvelous. Mo sighed inwardly as he took a few steps back. To Mo Xiu's Tang son, Ites said. Xiu Yang of Mo, to Mo all knew that Jin sure liked arrays, and the foundation of refining tools was to inscribe array patterns. If he were here now, he would definitely study tirelessly. He might even ask the boss for advice if he encountered something he didn't understand. Forget it. I'll help with my skills. I'm still good at frontal assaults and breaking through enemy lines. I don't care about arrays and refining methods. A smile appeared on the corner of Tang Xiu's mouth. As he gently raised his arm, 20 scabbards rushed out of the demon god spirit devourer cauldron. Following Tang Xiu's exquisite control, the 20 longswords instantly returned to their sheaths, while the brilliance on the swords was also wrapped by the scabbards. At this moment, it's been 2 days, boss. Don't we have to rush back to China? Asked Mo. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and then said, let's wait for a while. Even if we're in a hurry, there's no need to rush. I'll refine a few more batches of magic swords. After we return to Jingmen Island and meet up with Yen, we'll go to 9 Dragons Island and put the refined magic weapons into the armory. In the future, we'll distribute these magic weapons to whoever has the greatest contribution and ability. Furthermore, seeing that Tan Xiu stopped, Mo was confused and immediately asked, furthermore what? The more magic weapons we have, the better it will be for us. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, we're facing a formidable enemy. I'm going to test all the peripheral members of the Everlasting Feast Hall when we face a formidable enemy. If they can pass the test, they'll be recruited as core members. I'll teach them more profound cultivation techniques and open up the ancient scriptures pavilion for them to learn magic spells and other essential knowledge for cultivators. Mo was confused. Ancient Classics Library Pavilion? What kind of place is that? Tang Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, before we left 9 Dragons Island, I put a lot of cultivation classics, secret manuals, cultivation general knowledge, and all kinds of other books I wrote before into an attic and named it as the Book Collection Pavilion. Don't tell me you don't know about it. That's right, said Tang Xiu snappily. Mo blankly shook his head and muttered, I've never heard anyone mention it. Boss, you were busy with your own things back on 9 Dragons Island, so I didn't know anything else aside from seclusion cultivation. Strange, why didn't Jean Sure and the others mention it to me? Oh, I know you're a cultivation maniac. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, you'll seize the time to cultivate as long as you're not with me. But you must remember that cultivators not only need to cultivate, but also need to understand more common knowledge on cultivation, learn all kinds of magic spells, and delve into all kinds of secret techniques. Even if you're not proficient in array formations, artifact refining, and alchemy, you must learn them all. But even if you can't master them, you must at least master ordinary array formations, artifact refining, and alchemy. Else, you'll suffer a lot when you go to a new place with me one day. Boss, I think it won't be a problem even if I don't learn these things as long as my cultivation is high enough and my strength is strong enough, right? Tan Xiu turned serious and seriously said, as the saying goes, know your enemy and know yourself, and you'll be victorious in every battle. If your enemy is proficient in arrays and traps you in an array, how can you fight them head-on? You've also seen the means I used to arrange a large array to kill my enemies. Alchemy is to refine heavenly materials and earthly treasures into pills as your own cultivation resources. If you go to a place in the future and there's no alchemist proficient in alchemy there, are you going to look at the good stuff and lament your inadequacy? Another example is artifact refining. The most suitable weapon is always refined by yourself. Even if you have an immortal sword now, so what? How much of it can you really master? How much of its power can you unleash? Another example is magic spells. Chapter 982. Tang Xiu looked at the solemn expression on Mo''s face and continued with a sincere and earnest tone, in the future, you'll have to use magic spells when you fight with your enemies. Some terrifying magic spells will also cause extremely astonishing power. If you don't know a lot of magic spells, it won't be difficult for you to find a way to counter them when you fight your enemies in the future. In a fight between powerhouses, even if the enemy has a bit more magic spells than you, it's still possible to take your life. Mo' fell into silence. Tang Xiu's words shook him inwardly. At this moment, he realized how naive his thoughts were. A cultivator didn't need to be an all-rounder, but he must be proficient in every field. Having more skills was never a bad thing. As long as he had enough skills, coupled with his formidable strength, he would be able to sweep away his enemies and become the boss's valiant general. A respectful look appeared on Mo''s face as he saluted and said, I understand what you mean, boss. You can rest assured that I'll definitely learn more knowledge and master more skills in the future. I want to be your valiant general, so please guide me in the future, boss. I'll naturally spare no effort to guide you as long as you're willing to learn, boss. Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Oh, you must remember that what I need is a real powerhouse. Only the strong are qualified to follow me in the future. If you're surpassed by others, then you can't follow me for a long time. You can't charge and break through the enemy lines for me. Mo' clenched his fists and firmly said, rest assured, boss. I'll definitely double my efforts. Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said, wait until we return to Nine Dragons Island. Go find Ji Qimei and get half a year's worth of cultivation resources. Consider it as a compensation for giving me the blood of high-level fierce beasts. Mo' didn't refuse and respectfully replied, thank you, boss. Cultivation resources. It was what all cultivators urgently needed. Although Mo' didn't lack cultivation resources at present, the number of cultivation resources he would need in the future would increase as his cultivation level got higher. Rather than having a headache about cultivation resources in the future, it was better to accumulate more now. After lecturing Mo', Tan Xiu continued to forge. After a whole day of forging, he finally forged 200 magic longswords. However, in order to give Zhou Dequan and Kanaja one each, he made 2 more of them. Let's go. Tan Xiu stored everything into his spatial ring and left the underground warehouse with Mo'. When he appeared on the ground, he found that the ruins had been cleaned up. There were even many trucks transporting construction materials. With the help of more than a dozen cranes, a large number of construction materials were placed everywhere. Divine Dr. Tang. Zhou Qing held her 2 sons' hands and came to Tan Xiu. She had a bright smile on her face, and the way she looked at Tan Xiu was especially friendly. Tan Xiu smiled and said, why did you come here? Didn't your father settle you down in downtown Bangkok? Zhou Qing smiled and said, it's really boring in the city, so we came here. I heard from my father that you were in the underground warehouse, so we waited here for a while. Are you going back to China soon, Divine Dr. Tang? That's right. I'm heading to the airport right away. Tan Xiu nodded. The smile on Zhou Qing's face disappeared and she asked in a low voice, then, can you do me a favor? Say it. Tan Xiu smiled. What can I help you with? Tang Xiu smiled and said, "This time, I escaped China with my 2 sons. Aside from my father's former friend, I also have another bestie to help me. In order to help me, she seems to have offended Jingmen Island's local bully, a scoundrel. My bestie told me that she would immediately hide with her friend in the imperial capital after the 3 of us left Jingmen Island. I've been calling her these days, but I couldn't get in touch with her. Can you help me find her after you return to China? If there's anything she needs help with, would you be able to help her out?" "What's her name?" asked Tan Xiu. "Tell me her contact information and address." "Don't worry. As long as I can find her, I'll help her if she's in trouble." "You're really a good man, Divine Dr. Tang," said Suoqing gratefully. "Alright, don't give me a good man card," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "We don't have much time left, so we need to rush to Jingmen Island immediately. I'll send some gifts to your sons before I leave." "No need," Suoqing opened her mouth. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt her. He took out 2 jade pendants from his interspatial ring, tied them with ropes, and hung them around their necks. Then, he lightly smiled and said, "Remember, no matter what happens, don't let them take off the jade pendants. Wear them, and they may be able to save their lives when they encounter danger in the future." In the evening, Tan Xiu and Mo all arrived at the Bangkok airport. Just as they parked their car in the parking lot, Kanaja hurried over with several bodyguards. "It's all arranged, Mr. Tang. The flight will depart at 8:30 p.m. and you'll arrive at Jingmen Island at 1 a.m. Since you don't have passports or proof of coming to Tea Country, the flight attendants will arrange you to stay in the work area." "What do you think?" asked Kanaja respectfully. "No problem." Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said, "It doesn't matter as long as I can return to China smoothly. Once I return to China, no one will be able to stop me." "Ah, that's right. I'll give you this magic longsword. Though it won't be of much use to you, it's still a magic artifact. You can pass it on to your descendants in the future." An excited look appeared on Kanaja's face as he looked at the exquisite and artistic longsword. Just as he received it, he felt a cool and refreshing aura flowing through his palm and arm into his body. He originally felt a bit uncomfortable due to the hot weather, but now he felt a cool and refreshing feeling. "What a good treasure!" Kanaja couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Tan Xiu secretly found it funny. This guy was not a cultivator, so how could he know whether a magic artifact was good or bad? However, he didn't expose him and smilingly said, "The magic artifacts refined by me, Tan Xiu, are absolutely exquisite. You've provided me with a lot of gold, silver, bronze, and pig iron, so I'll give you something else in addition to this magic artifact." "What is it?" Kanaja looked curious and full of expectation. Tan Xiu was not an ordinary person, so he felt that the thing Tan Xiu gave him would be extraordinary. Tan Xiu took out a jade pendant from his interspatial ring and handed it to Kanaja, saying, "This is a protective magic artifact I refined in my spare time. But I didn't have many refining materials at that time, so it can only be used 3 times. Do keep in mind that you'd better wear it every day because it can block 3 crises for you when you encounter danger. It's just a jade pendant, Mr. Tang. How can it help me resist it?" Kanaja was puzzled. Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "Once you encounter an attack, it will form an invisible protective shield that shrouds your body inside. Even if someone uses a powerful sniper rifle to shoot you at close range, they won't be able to kill you." "So powerful?" Kanaja was shocked. This protective magic artifact was too amazing. It could actually withstand a sniper rifle at close range. Even the best bulletproof vests couldn't do this, right? After all, bulletproof vests couldn't be worn on the head. If its effect was really as good as Tan Xiu said, it would be equivalent to having 3 more lives. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Don't worry. I would never lie to you. Of course, if you don't believe me, we can experiment." "What kind of experiment?" asked Kanaja hurriedly. Wear this jade pendant magic artifact after you go back and let someone shoot you at close range, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Of course, if you don't dare to try it, you can let someone else wear this jade pendant and you'll be the one to shoot them. I understand, Mr. Tang, said Kanaja respectfully. Thank you. This jade pendant magic artifact is much better than that longsword magic artifact for me. Bangkok Airport. The flight from Bangkok to China's Jingmen Island finally arrived. In order to prove his importance to Tan Xiu, Kanaja personally escorted him and Moo to the plane. He also greeted the captain and the staff and smoothly brought Tan Xiu and Moo to the workshop. The food is ready, Mr. Tang. Mr. Kanaja has sent someone to buy it from outside. You can eat it without worries. A dignified and beautiful stewardess respectfully reported after serving the fragrant dishes to Tan Xiu and Moo. Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised, I didn't expect Kanaja to be so good at handling matters. This guy's wisdom is not to be underestimated. That's right, Kanaja seems to be very capable. Is he really that powerful in Bangkok? We don't dare to judge Mr. Kanaja in private, Mr. Tang, said the stewardess in a low voice. But as far as I know, he's really very powerful. Even the boss of our airline has to respectfully greet him when he sees him. At 1 a.m. Tan Xiu and Moo walked out of Jingmen Island Airport. The Everlasting Feast Hall's staff had been waiting for them since they knew in advance that Tan Xiu would come back. This person was Qi Nan, whom Tan Xiu hadn't seen for some time. Welcome back to China, boss. A bright smile hung on Qi Nan's face as she slightly bowed and smiled. How come you came to pick us up, Qi Nan? Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said. Most of our people have left Jingmen Island, boss, said Qi Nan with a smile. But I need to take care of my business, so I'm not in a hurry to go to Nine Dragons Island. I just happened to hear the news of you returning to China, so I volunteered to pick you up. Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He nodded and said, let's go. We'll head to the Jingmen Island HQ first. I need to handle something important. What is it, boss? Asked Qi Nan curiously. Tang Qi glanced at her and said, you seem to have a lot of questions, Qi Nan. Do remember that I don't want you to ask me too many questions in the future. Sometimes, the more you know, the worse it will be for you. Chapter 983. The existence of the exquisite pagoda was an absolute secret, and there were only 6 people in the entire Everlasting Feast Hall who knew about its existence. Among these 6 people, aside from Ji Qimei, who was loyal to Gu Yan, there were only him and Gu Yan's 3 disciples. Therefore, even though Qi Nan was a core member of the Everlasting Feast Hall and was loyal to him, he couldn't tell her about the exquisite pagoda, at least not now. The smile on Qi Nan's face disappeared and was replaced with a bit of awe as she whispered, boss, this subordinate was wrong. Tan Xiu lightly said, it's a great thing to know your mistakes and correct them. I'm warning you for your own good. The more problems you face in the future and the more you know, the more dangerous it will be. The most important thing for you now is to seriously cultivate. Only by becoming stronger can you have the qualifications to make me pay attention to you in the future. This subordinate has just broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment, said Qi Nan hurriedly. I won't neglect you in the future. I'll definitely be at the top among all the core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tan Xiu looked at her with a strange expression. A bit of ridicule suddenly appeared in his eyes as he indifferently said, from your words, I can tell that you seem to think that the mid-stage of foundation establishment is already a great achievement. Do you think you're now at the top of all the members? This subordinate doesn't dare, said Qi Nan quickly. I can responsibly tell you that among the 100 to 200 core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall, 3 have broken through to the Golden Core stage, and 2 have reached the mid-stage. Tan Xiu sneered. There are 19 of them who have broken through to the late stage of foundation establishment, and 46 of them have reached the mid-stage of foundation establishment. You've just broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment, so you can barely rank 46th. Among the 100 to 200 people, you're ranked 46th. Can you be considered at the top? What? Disbelief was written all over Chi Nan's face. Her mouth was wide open and she didn't speak for a long time. The 46th. Aside from working, she spent most of her time on cultivation and even spent a lot of money to buy a lot of cultivation resources from the everlasting feast hall. She had been working so hard, yet she was only ranked 46th. How was this possible? As Tang Xiu walked toward the outside, he said, "You didn't hear it wrong. You're at most ranked 46th among the 100 or 200 core members of the everlasting feast hall in terms of cultivation level. Based on actual combat experience, I'm afraid you won't even be ranked 46th. Cultivation realm was not the standard to measure a person's strength. Only those who had fought with all their might and sharpened themselves on the edge of life and death could be considered a true expert." As for Nine Dragons Island, aside from those who stayed on Jingmen Island, many of them have experienced brutal battles. Even some of our everlasting feast hall's core members have fallen. Chi Nan was thoroughly shaken. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that enemies would appear on Nine Dragons Island. Moreover, they even started a crazy fight with their own people. She didn't expect that some of her brothers and sisters would die in battle, and quite a few of them at that. What had happened over there? Suddenly, Chi Nan felt ashamed of herself for breaking through to the middle stage of the foundation building realm. He was improving, but others were also improving. There were probably many people who were working harder than him. "I was wrong, boss." With a shameful look, Chi Nan lowered her head and said. Tan Xiu stopped and turned to look at her. Then, he lightly said, "Chi Nan, you've been in contact with me a lot, so we're relatively close. So you must remember that there's always someone better than you out there. Arrogance and conceit will only lead to you being surpassed by others. As a matter of fact, I'm very optimistic about you. You can still have great achievements in the future as long as you're willing to work hard." "I'll definitely work hard, boss," said Chi Nan firmly. Tan Xiu didn't speak anymore. After coming to the parking lot, he just sat in the back seat and then looked at Chi Nan, who was sitting in the driver's seat, and said, "Investigate someone for me. Her name is Yang Yan, a fashion designer with her own studio, understood?" Chi Nan replied and started the car, heading toward the everlasting feast hall's HQ, Jingmen Island, Paradise Club. A super luxurious cruise ship was quietly docked at the port. Although it was late at night, there were still a lot of guests coming and going. Most of them were well-dressed and looked like successful people. 8 middle-aged men in black suits and ties stood on both sides of the passageway, examining all the guests coming and going. Yang Yun was wearing a red evening gown with a sparkling platinum necklace on her neck. A charming smile hung on her beautiful face as she checked the membership cards of the guests who came here. "Hello, please show me your membership card." Yang Yun smiled and looked at the woman in front of her, who looked a bit embarrassed and evasive. Yang Yan's fingers grabbed the corner of her clothes. She hesitated and asked, "I want to spend in the Paradise Club. Do I still need a membership card? I know a waiter in the Paradise Club. He's my younger brother. Can you make an exception and let me go in to look for him?" Yang Yun slightly furrowed her brows and lightly said, "I'm sorry, I can't let you go in without a membership card. As for your brother, he's a waiter in our Paradise Club. You can call him if you want to look for him and ask him to come out and see you." "I called him, but I couldn't get through to him," said Yang Yan hurriedly. "What's your brother's name?" asked Yang Yun. "Yang Fei," answered Yang Yan. Yang Yun looked at the middle-aged man next to her and said in a deep voice, "Go and ask if our Paradise Club has a waiter named Yang Fei. If there is, bring him here." "Understood." The middle-aged man replied and strode toward the luxury liner. A few minutes later, the middle-aged man came over with a sleepy young man. When they came to the entrance, the young man looked surprised. He strode forward and looked at Yang Yan, calling out, "Big sis, how did you find this place? Didn't I tell you not to disturb my work if there's nothing important?" Yang Yan looked at Ouyang Yun and wanted to speak but hesitated. Ouyang Yun had just checked the membership cards of the guests. After noticing Yang Yan's expression, she immediately said, "If it's inconvenient for outsiders to know about your conversation, you can talk in a distant place. However, the liner will set sail in half an hour. As a waiter of the Paradise Club, I hope you won't let your private affairs affect your work." "I understand, General Manager," said Yang Fei quickly. After a while, Yang Yan and Yang Fei came to a place tens of meters away. With a curious look on his face, Yang Fei asked in a low voice, "Big sis, what's going on? Why are you here?" "Little Fei, hurry up and quit your job here," said Yang Yan bitterly. "Come with me to the imperial capital for a while. I've already contacted someone in the imperial capital. Let's stay at my classmate's place for a while and then we'll make further plans." "Why are we going to the imperial capital, big sis?" asked Yang Fei, confused. "I offended some powerful and influential people in Jingmen Island," said Yang Yan. "They're now hunting me down. If my guess is correct, they'll soon trace it to you through me. So let's leave Jingmen Island first and go to the imperial capital to avoid the storm. After some time, we'll come back quietly and sell our properties. Jingmen Island will no longer be suitable for us to live in later." Yang Fei's face turned pale and he hurriedly asked, "Big sis, who did you offend? What's going on? Tell me clearly." Yang Yan forced a smile and said, "I offended the owner of the garden stud farm just to help my bestie. You've ridden horses with me, so you should know the owner of the garden stud farm, Guofugue. He's powerful and influential in Jingmen Island. Even if he can't cover the sky with one hand, it's still easy for him to deal with some people. Also, I can tell you that there's someone behind Guofugue, and it seems like that person is more powerful than him. That's why we must run away to the imperial capital to avoid the storm." The sudden news scared Yang Fei and made him shiver all over. He naturally knew who Guofugue was. He even knew more than his sister. Guofugue. On the surface, he was the owner of the garden stud farm, but he secretly controlled more than a dozen entertainment centers in Jingmen Island. He was also the owner of several five-star hotels and one of the main people in charge of an underground money house. Never did Yang Fei imagine that his sister would provoke such a big trouble. Guofugue was a ruthless character in Jingmen Island. Almost no one who offended him would have a good end. Yet, there was someone even more powerful behind him. This was a disaster that could take his life. "Big sis, wait for me. I'll immediately resign to the leader and then we'll leave Jingmen Island as soon as possible," said Yang Fei in a deep voice. Yang Yan nodded without a word. She looked at her brothers receding back and felt guilty. Ever since their parents passed away 5 years ago, the two of them had been relying on each other for survival. Although she worked to earn money to support her brother's college education, he never asked her for a penny after his graduation. Instead, he often used his salary to buy things for her instead. But this time, it was her who implicated him and forced him to flee to the ends of the world. Yang Fei strode to the boarding entrance and looked at Ouyang Yun. He hesitated and said, "General Manager, I want to resign. Give me a reason." Ouyang Yun said indifferently, "My sister has offended someone. We need to leave Jingmen Island immediately," said Yang Fei bitterly. Ouyang Yun was flabbergasted and asked, "Offended someone? Who did you offend?" Yang Fei knew about the Paradise Club's backer and Ouyang Yun's identity. After pondering for a moment, he whispered, "Guofugue." Chapter 984. Ouyang Yun was a member of Jingmen Island's Ouyang family. She was sent here to be the Paradise Club's general manager, so her identity was naturally not ordinary. Even the eldest daughter of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Lulu, had to call her elder cousin. Therefore, she naturally knew Guofugue's identity. However, she never thought that the older sister of this waiter would have such a great ability to offend Guofugue. Ouyang Yun was silent for a few seconds before she slowly said, "Your sister has offended Guofugue, so tell her to hide." You're a member of my Paradise Club, so you naturally don't need to be afraid of Guofugue's revenge. Yang Fei shook his head and said, General Manager, my sister is my only relative. I can't ignore her. Please approve my resignation. Yang Yun sighed and said, forget it. Since you insist on leaving, then I'll agree. Go inside and hand over your work, and then. Suddenly, her words came to a halt and a strange expression appeared in her eyes. She shook her head helplessly and sighed, I'm afraid it's impossible for you to leave now. There are at least a dozen of Guofugue's men in the surroundings, and his right-hand thug, that ruthless field mouse, has already come here. Yang Fei abruptly turned his head and saw that his sister, Yang Yan, had a panicked expression on her face as she rushed toward him. His eyes instantly swept the surroundings and found that at the edge of the bright spotlights, a few figures had appeared in his line of sight. Among them were two men who were following behind his sister, walking over with a murderous aura. Little Fei, you go first. In a panic, Yang Yan took out a fruit knife from her bag and dashed over, shouting hurriedly. Yang Fei shook his head and said, Big sis, it's a blessing and not a curse. Don't worry. I won't let them hurt you as long as I'm still standing. General Manager, thank you for agreeing to my resignation. I'm no longer an employee of the Paradise Club. I hope I won't bring you trouble because of us. Guofugue doesn't have the qualifications to bring me trouble, said Yang Yun disdainfully. But have you really thought it through? Once you decide to leave our Paradise Club, your life and death will have nothing to do with us. Yang Fei was silent for a moment and bitterly said, General Manager, I understand the rules. Whether I live or die today has nothing to do with you. After saying that, he snatched the fruit knife from Yang Yan's hand and shielded her behind him. He looked coldly at the two men who were striding toward him. When Yang Yun saw Yang Fei's actions, he shook his head regretfully and sighed. She admired Yang Fei's courage and uprightness, but her Yang family and Guofugue had always minded their own business. She wasn't willing to cause conflict between her Yang family and Guofugue because of a waiter, even though her Yang family wasn't afraid of Guofugue. Miss Yang. The middle-aged man on the left wearing a black suit with a scar on his left cheek glanced at Yang Yan and Yang Fei before nodding with a hint of respect. Yang Yun lightly smiled and said, Earth Mole, you really don't show up until late at night. You've brought so many people here today. Are you trying to cause trouble here? The scar-faced man shook his head and said, Miss Yang misunderstood. Even if you give me 100 guts, I won't dare to bring people to cause trouble here. The main reason I came here today is because of this bitch. She injured one of our brothers, so I need to take her back and hand her over to my boss. Yang Yun couldn't help laughing and said, Look at her. She doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. How could she injure your men? There should be some misunderstanding here, right? The scar-faced man shook his head and said, We've investigated it clearly, Miss Yang. She injured one of our brothers, and she's very ruthless. Our brother is now lying in the hospital and will probably have to use a wheelchair in the future. But I wonder if she's one of your people. Yang Yun looked at Yang Yan with a surprised expression. She immediately shook her head and said, She has nothing to do with my Yang family, and I don't care about the matter between you two. But this time and this place belongs to my Yang family, so please leave if you want to solve your personal conflict. The scar-faced man nodded and shot a cold look at Yang Fei. He then said in a deep voice, You should be Yang Yan's younger brother, Yang Fei, right? We've investigated your situation, so please come with us. Yang Fei took a deep breath and grabbed Yang Yan's hand. Then, he said in a deep voice, We'll go with you. Yang Yun looked at their backs as they left and secretly shook her head. She was perfectly aware of one thing. Once Yang Fei and Yang Yan left with Earth Mole's group, they would most likely face a narrow escape. However, she had seen a lot of life and death since she took over the Paradise Club, so she didn't feel like poking her nose into other people's business. Ring, ring, suddenly, a text message notification sounded from her mobile phone. When she took it out and opened the MMS, a surprised look immediately appeared on her beautiful face. The owner of the MMS photo was none other than Yang Yan, who hadn't gone far. Strange. Yang Yun muttered. She was about to dial the number that sent the MMS when her mobile suddenly rang. It was the same number that had just sent the MMS. What's going on? Asked Yang Yun. After a while, after hanging up the call, Yang Yun shouted in a deep voice, "Stop them immediately. That woman named Yang Yan must be kept here. Immediately." 8 burly men rushed toward Yang Yan, Yang Fei, and the others, who were already dozens of meters away. After stopping them, the scar-faced man pulled out a Mitsubishi Army knife and stared at Yang Yun, who was striding over with large strides, like a viper. "What do you mean, Miss Yang?" Yang Yun shook the mobile in her hand and helplessly said, "I didn't want to meddle in your business, but now it seems I have no choice but to do so. I just received a call from a high-ranking member of my family, asking me to help find her." Yang Yun pointed at Yang Yan. The scar-faced man frowned and asked, "Why are you looking for her? Could it be that she also provoked your Yang clan?" "I don't need to explain anything to you." Yang Yun shook her head. "You just need to know that she's very important to me. My family must ensure her safety before some people arrive." "All right, you can go now." "Miss Yang, isn't this against the rules?" The scar-faced man angrily said. "She injured my brother, and my boss has issued a death order to arrest her. But now you want to protect her and my boss has an unpleasant conflict. Is it worth it?" Yang Yun's face turned cold and she sneered, "So what if I have an unpleasant conflict with your boss? Even if I have a falling out with your boss, so what? Do you think my Yang family is afraid of Guofugue? Get the hell out of here, else don't blame me for being impolite." The scar-faced man was infuriated, but he could only suppress his anger inwardly due to Yang Yun's identity. He turned to look coldly at Yang Yan and coldly said, "You damned bitch. Just wait for me. You're lucky that the Yang family is protecting you. But I hope the Yang family will protect you forever, else, Yang Yan and Yang Fei were already in despair. After all, they would have a miserable end if they fell into the hands of Guofugue's men. But they didn't expect that Yang Yun would suddenly intervene. Yang Yan watched the scar-faced man leave and walk to a dark place tens of meters away. Then, she turned to look at Yang Yun and asked with a bit of restlessness, "Miss Yang, thank you, you don't need to thank me. I just received a call. Someone is looking for you. I've already passed the news that you're here, and I believe someone will come here soon," said Yang Yun lightly. "You don't need to thank me," said Yang Yun lightly. "Who are they?" asked Yang Yan hurriedly. "I don't know." Yang Yun shook her head. On the coastal highway, a black car was speeding toward the direction of the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. While driving, Chi Nan's expression suddenly moved. She put on her headset and picked up the phone. After listening to the other party speak a few times, she then said in a deep voice, "Thank you very much. Please wait a moment." Chi Nan took off her headset and said, "I found that woman, boss. She's at the Bay Port and has just been captured by her enemies. I've sent out the news that we're looking for her half an hour ago. The Yang family's intelligence agency has been a great help." The Bay Port? How far is it from here to the Bay Port? Asked Tan Xiao with a frown. "It's not very far. It's only a 10-minute drive," answered Chi Nan. "Then let's go to the Bay Port first," said Tan Xiao. "Understood." 10 minutes later, the car arrived at the Bay Port. Tan Xiao had already seen the surrounding situation through the window, especially Yang Yan, who was standing next to Yang Yun. He could recognize her at a glance. Yang Yun, along with 4 middle-aged men, strode to the front of the car. She really wanted to know who this person was that could even ask the head of the Yang family's intelligence agency to help. After getting off the car, he indifferently glanced around and immediately went to the back to open the door. As Tan Xiao got off the car, a surprised look appeared on Ouyang Yun's face. Tan Xiu. The magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. The Tang family's young master. The future son-in-law of the Ouyang family? How could it be him? Ouyang Yun came to Tan Xiu's front in a few steps and smilingly said, "Hello, Mr. Tang. I'm Ouyang Yun, Lulu's cousin." Tan Xiu shook hands with her and smilingly said, "Hello, Big Sis Yun. I've troubled you this time." "It's no trouble at all." Ouyang Yun shook her head and smiled. "I just didn't expect that the one looking for Yang Yan turned out to be you." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "I was entrusted by someone to help that woman named Yang Yan. Big Sis Yun, you're Lulu's cousin, so we're on the same side. You don't need to call me Mr. Tang. Just call me Tan Xiu." Chapter 985. "Since we're family, then I won't be polite with you," said Ouyang Yun with a smile. "Tang Xiu, Yang Yan is over there. It's just that she got into some trouble. Look at those people around her. They are all Jingmen Island's Guofugue's men. Even under my threat, they only retreated far away, hoping to find a chance to capture Yang Yan and her brother, Yang Fei." "Who's Guofugue?" Tan Xiu curiously asked as he glanced at the dusky area dozens of meters away. Ouyang Yun said, "There's a very capable guy in Jingmen Island. Most of his businesses are shady businesses. However, in the eyes of our Ouyang clan, he is nothing." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Since he's just a nobody, then you don't need to care about him. I'll send someone to warn Guofugue later. Sister Yun, I just came back from abroad, and I still have some matters to attend to. I'll take Yang Yan with me today. I'll thank you again in the future." Ouyang Yun waved his hand and said with a smile, "Tan Xiu, there is no need to thank me. As long as you treat my sister well, I will be satisfied." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Lulu is my woman. I'll naturally treat her well. Don't worry, Sister Yun." Ouyang Yun nodded with a smile. Tan Xiu strode to Yang Yan and asked, "Are you Yang Yan? Sua Qing's best friend?" Yang Yan's pupils suddenly contracted. She took a step back and vigilantly asked, "Who are you? How did you know about Sua Qing?" Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "You don't need to be afraid. Sua Qing and I should be considered friends. She asked me to tell you that she has safely arrived in Tea Country with her 2 children, and that they are now safe under her father's protection. As for you, you helped her escape from China. I believe you must have angered the Huang family. Although the feud between the Huang and the Zhuo family has ended, Sua Qing still guessed that you would be in trouble. That's why he asked me to come over to help you. By the way, would you like to go to Bangkok in Tea Country?" Yang Yan asked in surprise, "Are you really Sua Qing's friend?" Tan Xiu nodded and said, "I don't need to lie." Ouyang Yun also said, "Yang Yan, right? You should know about my Ouyang clan, right? Tan Xiu is the son-in-law of my Ouyang family, the man of my cousin, Ouyang Lulu. What he said is naturally the truth, because you don't have the qualifications for him to lie to you." Ouyang Lulu. The infamous she-devil in Jingmen Island? This handsome young man turned out to be Ouyang Lulu's man. A fanatical look suddenly appeared on Yang Fei's face as he respectfully said, "I'm very glad to see you again, Mr. Tang. Big sis, I can prove that Mr. Tang is indeed the boyfriend of Ouyang family's eldest daughter, Ouyang Lulu. I've met Mr. Tang at the Paradise Club, and I've heard many legendary stories about Mr. Tang." Cough, cough, Tan Xiu looked at Yang Fei, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. A legendary story? How could there be such a legendary story? Shaking his head, he smiled and asked, "You are?" Yang Fei said, "Hello, Mr. Tang. My name is Yang Fei. I used to be a waiter of the Paradise Club. Yang Yan is my sister, my biological sister." Tan Xiu suddenly understood and smilingly said, "Persuade your sister. You'd better leave Jingmen Island as soon as possible. Although I'll send someone to warn Guofugue, it's hard to deal with a small devil. If he sends someone to harass you without me knowing, it'll be troublesome. Yang Fei hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, Big sis, Mr. Tang is right. We really should leave Jingmen Island. I know about Guo Fugui. He's a ruthless and merciless character, and he's famous for seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. It's a good choice to go to tea country. Yang Yan nodded repeatedly. Today's situation had turned for the better, and she and her brother's safety was guaranteed. She was already thankful to the heavens and the earth for the sudden appearance of a savior. Now, she would agree to whatever Tan Xiu said. Tan Xiu greeted Ouyang Yun and led the siblings to the front of the car. Then, he said in a deep voice, Chi Nan, send someone to Bangkok in tea country. Don't make any mistakes on the way. Also, go see that Guo Fugui in person and warn him not to pester Yang Yan again. What if Guo Fugui insists on making things difficult for Miss Yang? Asked Chi Nan. If he doesn't listen to my advice, then there's no need for him to mingle in Jingmen Island anymore, said Tan Xiu indifferently. Go. Finish this matter quickly and return to HQ earlier. Chi Nan nodded and suddenly asked, Boss, there's only one car, don't worry about us. You go first, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. After Chi Nan left, Tan Xiu returned to Ouyang Yun and asked, Big sis Yun, can you lend us a car? We still have something important to do as soon as possible. It's a small matter. I'll send someone to drive the car right away, said Ouyang Yun with a smile. But I've already told my cousin about your arrival here. You should wait for him. He'll be here soon. Cousin? Who's your cousin? Asked Tan Xiu. Is it Ouyang Lei? That's right. It's indeed Ouyang Lei, said Ouyang Yun with a smile. He was born 4 days earlier than me, so I call him cousin. Tan Xiu thought for a moment before he nodded and said, since he's already here, then I'll wait for him for a while. That's right, hasn't Lulu dealt with the Paradise Club? How come it's still in the hands of your Ouyang family? Lulu did sell this luxury cruise, but the buyer is my Ouyang family, said Ouyang Yun with a smile. Like Lulu said, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, if you marry a dog, follow the dog, if you marry a monkey, you can walk all over the mountain. She's determined to marry you, so she hurriedly cut off all relations with my family. My first uncle has been lamenting that his daughter is always thinking about her husband's family even before she gets married. Cough, cough, Tan Xiu coughed twice to cover up his embarrassment. But after recalling Ouyang Lulu's actions, he found that what Ouyang Yun said was indeed reasonable. Even when he was with Ouyang Lulu, that girl had begun to count with her fingers, thinking about how much money the Ouyang family would give her when she marries him in the future. Half an hour passed by. Tan Xiu was sitting in the most luxurious hall of the Paradise Club, chatting with Ouyang Yun while waiting for Ouyang Lei's arrival. Bam! The hall's door was forcefully pushed open as the burly Ouyang Lei strode into the room. When he saw Tan Xiu, a pleasantly surprised look immediately appeared on his face. He opened his arms to greet him and shouted, "Future brother-in-law, it's really you. When I received the call before, I thought it was a lie from the person in charge of intelligence. Ha ha ha, we haven't seen each other for more than half a year, right? I didn't expect you to be so handsome." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He got up and gave him a big hug. After letting go, he said with a smile, "Brother Lei, I didn't expect that you still haven't rested even though it's already so late. I heard that you've recently taken over the Ouyang family's power. I believe it won't be long before you become the new patriarch of the Ouyang family, right?" Ouyang Lei waved his hand and smilingly said, "My father is old but vigorous. He's even more energetic than me now. It's still far away for me to become the patriarch of the Ouyang family. But your business is flourishing and your power keeps soaring. Lulu called me a few days ago. She said that you're always busy and don't have much time to accompany her. I do have some things to deal with, but she's pressured me, so I promised to accompany her for some time," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "But you heard from Lulu that you found your sweetheart. When will you get married?" I'll give you a big gift when the time comes. Soon, soon. Ouyang Lei grinned and said, we'll get married at the end of this year. Why don't you give me that gift first? You haven't gotten married yet. What's the matter with me giving you a big gift now? Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. But I do have some good things for you. With that said, Tan Xiu took out a porcelain bottle and a book from his interspatial ring. He handed them over to Ouyang Lei and said, there are 10 drops of body refining liquid inside. Drop 1 drop into the water when you're about to take a bath. The process may be a bit painful, but it'll be very helpful to your body. Remember, the longer you soak it, the more benefits it will bring you. Also, this is an ancient manual on body refining that should be very suitable for your cultivation. With a pleasantly surprised expression, Ouyang Lei almost rushed to grab the porcelain bottle and the ancient manual. He fondled it and couldn't bear to put it down. Then, he nodded with satisfaction and said, my younger sister is really blessed to have found a husband like you, brother-in-law. I heard that you've seen my mother, right? You must have bled a lot, right? Ugh, Tan Xiu recalled the last time he met his cheap mother-in-law, and he couldn't help but feel nervous. The last time they met, he was indeed slaughtered. Looking at the excited expression on Ouyang Lei's face, Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and suddenly grinned, Brother Lei, do you want to become a real expert? You can fly over eaves and walk on walls and injure people by plucking leaves. Ouyang Lei rolled his eyes and then proudly said, I can fly over eaves and walk on walls, and injure people by plucking leaves. Don't look down on me, though. I'm also an expert now. Not long ago, I challenged a martial Dao Grand Master to a fight and defeated him within a dozen moves. Tan Xiu instantly realized that the cultivation manual he gave to his cheap mother-in-law must have been passed on to Ouyang Lei. However, Tan Xiu was a bit annoyed after seeing his behavior, yet he maintained his composure and said, Brother Lei, I'm afraid you already know some things about me. If you want to become stronger, then you must seize every opportunity. I'll give you a chance now. Do you want to be trained by my people? I guarantee that your strength will increase by more than 10 times after the training. 10 times? Ouyang Lei exclaimed. More than that. I'm willing. I'll do whatever you want me to do as long as I can become stronger. Tan Xiu clapped his hands and smilingly said, You're very motivated. That's great. How about this? Tell me what you need to do later, and I'll send someone to send you to the training place. Today's 4 chapters have been released. For the sake of Jingye's illness, please support me with your monthly votes, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. _. Chapter 986. Looking at the excited Ouyang Lei, Tan Xiu secretly laughed inwardly. Ouyang Lei had just stepped into the qi refining stage, and he was probably inferior to the first batch of orphans adopted. After sending him to Clam Island, he would train with those children. The scene would definitely be very interesting. It's getting late. I should go back and rest. Don't worry. I still have something to tell you, said Ouyang Lei hurriedly. What is it? Asked Tan Xiu. Our Ouyang family recently got a treasure, but none of our family members could figure it out. We even invited a lot of antique experts and famous collectors in the country, but they still couldn't figure it out. That's right, there are also some famous figures from the occult sect. We've also tried to screen it, but they also couldn't figure it out. So, can you help us take a look? You can't figure out what it is, yet you dare to call it a treasure? Tan Xiu was surprised. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a treasure, said Ouyang Lei proudly. Do you know what it's made of? Scientific experts said that it's a meteorite from an alien planet, and it's not an ordinary one either. It's rich in energy. Is it a meteorite? Asked Tan Xiu. Of course not. Ouyang Lei shook his head. It's an oval vessel with many patterns engraved on it. However, those patterns look like some strange symbols. Unfortunately, even the most famous historian in the country can't understand the content of those symbols. Tan Xiu suddenly became curious and asked, "Where is it?" "I can help you take a look." "It's in our family's warehouse," said Ouyang Lei. "Let's go to my house now." Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. He didn't want to go to the Ouyang family. Although Ouyang Lulu was already his woman, he couldn't give Ouyang Lulu a title or even a wedding. Wouldn't it be too awkward if he were to go there with the identity of the Ouyang family's son-in-law? Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, "Brother Lei, I still have some important things to do in the everlasting feast hall, so I have to go back first. Besides, it's late at night now, so it's not good to go to your family. How about this? Take that treasure to the everlasting feast hall. I'll handle some matters first and wait for you there. What do you think?" Thinking about it, Ouyang Lei felt that it was indeed inappropriate to let Tan Xiu follow him back to his family in the middle of the night. He immediately nodded and said, "No problem. I'll take that treasure to the everlasting feast hall later." Countryside horse farm. In the European-style villa, Guofugue was sleeping soundly. Beside him were two fair-skinned beautiful girls. They curled up on both sides of him like kittens. Their fair arms and legs were wrapped around his body like octopuses. Ring, 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 the urgent ringtone of the cell phone broke the silence of the darkness. Guofugue was woken up by the ringing of his cell phone. He looked angry and pushed the two girls' thighs and arms away. Then, he grabbed the cell phone on the bedside table and looked at the number on the screen. After picking up the call, he cursed, "Howsy, are you fucking courting death? Why are you calling me in the middle of the night? Don't you know that I hate it when people disturb my sleep?" "Boss, something happened." A low and deep voice came from the phone. Guofugue was stunned. He turned to look at the two girls who were sitting up in a daze. He then got up from the bed and walked to the window, asking in a deep voice, "What happened?" "Boss, we've caught Yang Yan and her younger brother, Yang Fei, at the harbor where the Ouyang family's luxury liner is docked." However, Ouyang Yun of the Ouyang family, the general manager of the Paradise Club, suddenly intervened and snatched Yang Yan and Yang Fei. "We're here now, but Ouyang Yun seems to have handed over Yang Yan and Yang Fei to someone else." A low and deep voice came from the phone again. "The Ouyang family? Ouyang Yun?" A chilling light flashed in Guofugue's eyes. He used to be afraid of the Ouyang family because it was one of the biggest families in Jingmen Island with a very deep heritage. But now, he was no longer afraid of it. At most, he was just a bit wary. The Huang family. He relied on the Fukang province's Huang family because his younger sister married an extraordinary scion of the Huang family last year. Therefore, he and the Huang family could be said to be related by blood. Furthermore, the Huang family was also the reason why he sent people to hunt down Yang Yan. If the Ouyang family wanted to deal with him, the Huang family wouldn't stand idly by. "Tell me, where are they now?" "They've been taken away. I personally led some people to follow them and planned to snatch them along the way. But the other party's anti-detection ability is very strong and they shook us off after discovering that we were following them. I've now led some people back to the harbor to monitor the Ouyang family's people and the person who sent them to take Yang Yan and her younger brother away." "What a bunch of trash." Guofugue coldly snorted. "Just wait for me. I'll be there soon." The voice came from the phone again, "Boss, Ouyang Lei just came here and entered the Paradise Club. If you come in person, just in case." "Ouyang Lei? Why did he go there? Who were the people who wanted to save the Yang family's siblings? To think that they could make Ouyang Lei personally go there in the middle of the night. Could it be that their background was stronger than the Ouyang family?" Guofugue fell into silence and was about to speak when the voice came from the phone again. "Boss, Ouyang Lei and that young man just came out. It seems they're leaving the Paradise Club. What should I do? Should I secretly follow the guy who sent people to take Yang Yan and her younger brother away? Follow them and figure out their background." "Understood." Guofugue hung up the phone. His sleepiness had completely disappeared. A pensive look flashed in his eyes as he silently pondered over the key issues in this matter. Zhuo Qing. He was instructed by the Huang family's patriarch to help him find and pursue the woman. But in the end, Zhuo Qing quietly left Jingmen Island with Yang Yan's help, causing him to lose face in front of the Huang family's patriarch, Huang Jinfu. He hated her. He hated Yang Yan who helped Zhuo Qing escape, so he sent some people to investigate her whereabouts and background. He also sent a lot of people to hunt her down. It was a pity that the cunning woman had been running away for several days and had yet to be caught. At 3:30 a.m. Tan Xiao and Mo all rushed to the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. Most of the people had already left and were now on Nine Dragons Island, so only a dozen core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall were left here. Gu Xiaoxue, on the other hand, had returned a step earlier. All, stay here. In the parking lot, Tan Xiao issued an order and then walked toward the seaside. Just as he arrived at the seaside, he saw Gu Xiaoxue sitting cross-legged in the lone boat on the sea under the starlight, cultivating. With a faint smile, Tan Xiao soared and instantly stood on the bow of the lone boat. Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxue looked pleasantly surprised upon seeing Tan Xiao. Not bad. You're very hard-working. Tan Xiao nodded. However, Tang Guang and Tang An are a level stronger than you, so you need to work harder to break through to the late stage of Golden Core as soon as possible. I'll try my best, Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxue nodded. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and looked at the sea in front of him. He immediately cast a seal and sent a stream of air into the sea. In just a short while, the sea in front of him split open and Gu Yan, clad in white, darted out lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Tan Xiao. Master. Gu Yan, was like a young girl as she let out a cheerful laugh and skillfully held Tan Xiao's arm. Let's get ready to leave this place, said Tan Xiao with a smile. I've arranged an array in the sea near Nine Dragons Island that's suitable for the exquisite pagoda. Are you also going to stay in Nine Dragons Island in the future, Master? Asked Gu Yan, with a smile. I still have a lot of things to do, so I won't be staying here for the time being. Tan Xiao shook his head. However, I still have to go to Nine Dragons Island in the near future to kill all the enemies who dare to covet Nine Dragons Island. Those enemies are just ants in my eyes. Gu Yan, chuckled. I can easily kill them as long as you tell me who the enemies are, Master. I can't let you do it. Tan Xiao shook his head. The current environment on Earth is too comfortable, which is very unfavorable for us to train talents. So let the others fight the enemies and sharpen themselves on the edge of life and death. As long as they can survive, they will be qualified to leave with us in the future. I'll listen to you, Master, said Gu Yan, with a smile. Tan Xiao reached out to touch her smooth black long hair and smilingly said, I'm going to establish a sect and rename it. Do you have any objections? Yan, is Masters, said Gu Yan, straightforwardly. Whatever you say, Master. When I established the Everlasting Feast Hall to train a group of talents, the main purpose was to have them help me find you, Master. Now that I've found you, they are meaningless to me. They are our people, Yan, Tan Xiao shook his head. I know what you're thinking, but you must remember that since you've raised them and taught them your skills, you must treat them as your family. You know who I used to be, but I neglected one point, and that is strength in numbers. If those old men who followed me to the peak were all by my side, those bastards wouldn't have had the chance to plot against me. A thoughtful look flashed in Gu Yan's eyes. She silently nodded and said, I'll remember your words, Master. Tan Xiao looked up at the starry sky. His deep eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the clouds and space to see the magnificent scene in the vast immortal world. He could see his enemies constantly making progress. However, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid at all. He was once a supreme in the immortal world, and his biggest advantage was the accumulation of tens of thousands of years, as well as the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, a top-notch cultivation art that was comparable to the cultivation art of demon gods. In the past, it had taken him 8,000 years to become the supreme exalt of the immortal world. Now that he had started over, he was confident that he would be able to shorten the time needed. Chapter 987. The laws in the immortal world were exceptionally cruel, and the survival of the fittest was the rule without exception. If one wanted to stand out in the immortal world, they could only kill their way out of this world unless they had a strong background. Tang Xiu was glad that he didn't have nothing after starting all over again. Although he couldn't contact his subordinates in the past and couldn't expose the fact that he was still alive, he still had Gu Yan, as his disciple. She was injured and her cultivation had fallen to the point where she had just become an immortal, but once she returned to the immortal world in the future, she could quickly restore her strength. It must be noted. Before Gu Yan came to Earth, her cultivation had reached the terrifying perfected golden immortal stage. Although she was still a bit far from the supremacy stage, she could be regarded as a feudal lord. Even the supremes in the immortal world didn't dare to ignore her existence. Yan, can you refine the nascent soul breakthrough pill now? Tan Xiu retracted his gaze and looked at Gu Yan, Master, let alone the nascent soul breakthrough pill, I can even refine an immortal pill now. Gu Yan hesitated. It's just that the materials for alchemy on Earth are very scarce. I only know the fallen soul grass, but I don't have any other materials. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to refine the nascent soul breakthrough pill. You don't need to worry about the materials for alchemy. I'll solve this matter, said Tan Xiu. I think I must set a rule. When we go back in the future, the people we take away must have some strength. If they haven't broken through to the spirit formation stage by then, they won't be qualified to leave with us. Isn't this limit too low, Master? Gu Yan hesitated. Spirit formation stage cultivators are everywhere in the immortal world, and they can only be regarded as weak. If you ask me, those who haven't reached the great ascension stage are not qualified to go with us. Yan, you should be very clear about the cultivation conditions on Earth. Tan Xiu shook his head. It's very difficult to break through to the great ascension stage in such a harsh environment where resources are scarce. Even I don't dare to say that I can be comparable to a great ascension stage expert. The soul formation stage was enough. Once we bring them to the immortal world and find a paradise, I believe that after gathering a large amount of cultivation resources, their potential will be completely stimulated. At that time, their cultivation will probably advance by leaps and bounds. In 100 years at most, they might be able to break through to the immortal realm. Gu Yan, thought about it and felt that Tan Xiu's words made sense, so she nodded and said, Don't worry, Master. As long as I have enough alchemy ingredients, I can refine a large number of breaking nascent soul pills. With the assistance of the nascent breaking pill, I believe it won't be long before we have a large number of nascent soul experts. Countryside horse farm. Dozens of strong men had already gathered outside the European-style villa. Guo Fugue, with a murderous look on his face, walked out of the villa with 2 strong men following him. He indifferently looked at his men in front of him and said in a deep voice, You should have heard of the everlasting feast hall. But now, this restaurant is actually harboring the murderer of our brothers, so the owner of this restaurant and all of them should die. Follow me, we'll force them to hand over the murderer and give us an explanation. Otherwise, we'll teach them a lesson. Teach them a lesson. The dozens of strong men brandished their fists and roared aggressively. Guo Fugue nodded in satisfaction and strode toward the row of cars not far away. After quickly boarding the car, the convoy then headed toward the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. In the car, Guo Fugue was sitting in the back seat with his eyes gleaming with lust. He had been to the Everlasting Feast Hall several times. The food there was indeed good, and it was a good place for leisure and entertainment. But what he missed the most was the little boss of the Everlasting Feast Hall, the fairy-like Gu Xiaoxue. Guo Fugue had seen a lot of beauties in his life, but those who could reach the level of Gu Xiaoxue were few and far between. In the entire Jingmen Island, there were only 2 people who had such a stunning appearance. One was Gu Xiaoxue, and the other was the eldest daughter of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Lulu. He didn't dare to covet Ouyang Lulu because he was afraid that the Ouyang family would come out in full force to annihilate him. However, Gu Xiaoxue didn't seem to have any background. Except for the number of security guards in the Everlasting Feast Hall, there was nothing to be afraid of. In the parking lot of the Everlasting Feast Hall, Mo All was leaning on the side of the car with a cigarette between his fingernails, silently thinking about something. He knew that the Everlasting Feast Hall had a lot of secrets, and the biggest one should be the boss, Gu Yan. Although Gu Yan raised him and taught him some skills, he didn't know much about Gu Yan. Her origin. Her age. How powerful was she? Mo All knew nothing about it. He only knew that in his eyes, Gu Yan was his boss, and like his mother, she was the closest person to him. And Tan Xiu was the person he admired the most. He also had absolute loyalty and trust toward Tan Xiu. Light, Dark, and Gu Xiaoxue. All three of them have broken through to the Golden Core stage and should be the strongest experts in the entire Everlasting Feast Hall. But my cultivation is only at the late stage of foundation establishment. Even if I can be ranked at the forefront of the restaurant's members, it's still far from what I want. The origin of these two bosses is absolutely terrifying because it's related to the existence of another world. Let alone boss Gu Yan, just boss Tan Xiu alone has improved his strength too fast. If I can't break through to the Golden Core stage in a short time, I'm afraid the gap between me and boss Tan Xiu will only get bigger and bigger, so much so that I'll lose the opportunity to serve him in the future. Become stronger. I need to become even stronger. Tang Guang, Tang An, and Gu Xiaoxue. The reason why the three of them have such formidable strength is because they started cultivating earlier. I'm definitely not worse than them in terms of cultivation talent and hard work. Mo All clenched his fists tightly with a firm look in his eyes. Suddenly, his expression slightly moved as he looked at a figure dashing lightning fast toward him and asked indifferently, "What's the matter?" "Someone followed you and boss here, but they didn't enter our manor and just wandered around the vicinity," said the person in a deep voice. Mo All frowned and coldly said, "Let's go and have a look. They must be experts to be able to follow us here without us noticing." A few minutes later, at the intersection of the highway outside the Everlasting Feast Hall, the scar-faced man, Lu Hao, stooped down and hid in the bushes like a cat, quietly observing the interior of the Everlasting Feast Hall. The binoculars in his hand allowed him to clearly observe a large area inside the Everlasting Feast Hall. Next to him, three thin young men gripped their machetes and vigilantly observed the surroundings. They would be able to detect the slightest movement of the grass in the wind the first time. "How long will it take for boss to arrive, Brother Mouse?" One of the young men leaned toward Lu Hao and asked in a low voice. "He should have set off by now." Lu Hao sneered. "Boss brought a lot of our brothers this time." Even if the Everlasting Feast Hall has a lot of security guards, those spineless shrimps will have no choice but to kneel and beg for mercy when the time comes. Fuck, if it weren't for not alerting them, the four of us would have already rushed in and caught those two guys. "Brother Mouse, we're boss's men. Who in the entire Jingmen Island doesn't know the name of our boss, Guofugue? Do you think those security guards of the Everlasting Feast Hall will dare to compete with us? Even if we go in and catch them, I'm afraid they won't even dare to let out a fart." Lu Hao let out a faint smile. He was very satisfied with his current life. As the number one right-hand man of his boss, Guofugue, he was respected by countless people. Though his nickname was Mouse, no one really dared to trample on him like a mouse. All these years, he had been eating and drinking well. He had money and women, so it was needless to say how free and unrestrained his life was. "Who is it?" Suddenly, Lu Hao's complexion drastically changed and a horrified look burst out from his eyes. He was a man who could fight and go all out. He had been practicing Sanda for 20 to 30 years, and even 7 or 8 experienced local ruffians were not his match. But now, someone was sneaking up on him, and he didn't even notice it in advance. In an instant, the other three young men raised their machetes and quickly came to Lu Hao's side, glaring at the light outside the shade of the tree. Under the streetlight 5 or 6 meters away, Mo All was seen with his hands behind his back, followed by 4 experts of the everlasting feast hall. His killing intent was locked on the 4 of them. You already know the answer, don't you? You followed us here and even asked who we are. What kind of logic is this? I'd like to ask, where are you from? You even dare to follow us and spy on our everlasting feast hall? Asked Mo All lightly. Upon hearing it, Lu Hao's tense body immediately relaxed and a disdainful look flashed in his eyes. He got up and walked out of the dark shade of the tree and sneered, "You're really from the everlasting feast hall. Where's the other brat? Why didn't he come with you?" Mo All shook his head and lightly said, "Just based on what you said, it's impossible for this matter to be settled peacefully. Tell me, who exactly are you people? Why are you following us?" Lu Hao rolled his eyes and observed Mo All and the 4 core members of the everlasting feast hall. He then shook his head and said, "You look tall and strong, but I'm afraid you're just a bunch of wax heads and silver spears. I'm sure you'll know who I am soon. But you'll be out of luck when that time comes." Mo All slightly furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, "Capture them and bring them inside for interrogation." Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 middle-aged big men instantly appeared in front of the 4 men. Their movements were clean and neat as their palm blades chopped the 4 men's necks, directly knocking them out. Mo All rolled his eyes and couldn't help laughing. "I thought they were some great experts. Never did I expect that they're just spineless shrimps that can't even withstand a single blow. Bring them inside. Since they dare to follow me and boss here, I'm sure they must have some purpose." Chapter 988. A few minutes later. In the parking lot of the everlasting feast hall, Lu Hao's group of 4 was thrown to the cold concrete floor like dead dogs. A big man kicked them awake. Mo All looked at their greatly changed expressions and sneered, "You just bragged a while ago, yet you can't even withstand a single blow. Tell me, who the hell are you people? Of course, you can choose not to say anything, but you won't be able to bear the consequences." Lu Hao crawled up from the ground and reached for his waist. His expression changed as the dagger on his waist was nowhere to be found. Mo All put his hand behind his back and took out the dagger. He threw it in front of Lu Hao and asked with a faint smile, "Are you looking for it? This trash won't be a threat to us." "Who the hell are you people?" Lu Hao angrily shouted. "The security guards of a restaurant don't have this kind of strength. Anyhow, there's no harm in telling you. I'm Guo Fugui's subordinate. You've saved Yang Yan and her brother, which means you're going against our boss." Guo Fugui. Mo All blinked his eyes and a confused look appeared on his face. He had never heard of this name before. Could it be that this person was some great figure? Never heard of him. Lu Hao stared blankly and immediately flew into a rage. He wanted to use his boss's name to shake these guys in front of him, yet he didn't expect that they would say such a thing. Never heard of him. Was there anyone in Jingmen Island who hadn't heard of his boss's name? "You've got guts, brat." Mo All snorted coldly, "You don't need to worry about my guts. I now understand that the reason you followed us is because of Yang Yan and her brother. What's wrong with them?" Tan Xiu came to the parking lot with Gu Xiaoxue and looked surprised after seeing the scene in front of them. "Boss." The 4 core members of the everlasting feast hall immediately saluted. "We were followed, boss," said Mo. "It's them. We were interrogated and found out that they are Guo Fugui's men, but I've never heard of him. The one who issued the order to kill Yang Yan and her brother is this Guo Fugui." Tan Xiu stared blankly and said with a strange expression, "I've sent someone to warn Guo Fugui, but I didn't expect him to send someone to follow us here. Interesting. It seems I can call Qinan back. Call me." After saying that, Mo All walked to the side and called Qinan. Lu Hao shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and sneered, "Are you the owner of this everlasting feast hall?" Humph, a few businessmen who opened a restaurant actually dared to meddle in other people's business and challenge our boss. I think you must be tired of living. Just you wait. Our boss will be here soon. I hope you won't be so scared that you'll kneel and beg for mercy. Noisy. Tan Xiu's slap landed on Lu Hao's face. Several teeth flew out along with blood. His left cheek was already red and swollen. Tan Xiu sneered and said, "Those who clamor in front of me never live long. This is the first time, so I can spare you. If you dare to clamor again, I'll throw your corpse into the sea to feed the fish." Lu Hao covered his face, his eyes bursting with a look of disbelief. He was an expert with rich combat experience. 20 to 30 years of mixed martial arts training was not for nothing. But how could the opponent's speed be so fast? He didn't even see his movements clearly. He only saw a blur before his face was slapped. How was this possible? Tan Xiu took out a cigarette. Just as he put one in the corner of his mouth, Gu Xiaoxua quickly took out a lighter and directly lit it for Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu smiled approvingly. Having his cigarette lit by a beauty was really a good feeling. After looking at Lu Hao, he asked with a smile, "Your boss, Guo Fugue, will be here soon? How long will it take for him to arrive?" Lu Hao covered his cheek and glared at Tan Xiu with resentment, saying, "Soon, very soon. Our boss is on the way now. It won't take more than half an hour. If you want to call someone, just call them. You'll regret it when our boss comes with a large number of people." Tan Xiu shook his head and didn't bother to reply to Lu Hao. He jumped on the roof of a car, sat cross-legged, and slowly closed his eyes. In his view, Guo Fugue was just a clown. Yang Yun told him about Guo Fugue when he was in the Paradise Club. He was a guy who didn't walk the right path. If he really dared to bring people here, he would directly deal with him. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression moved. The moment he opened his eyes, his mobile appeared in his hand. He waved to Mo Ao and the others and watched them take Lu Hao's group of 4 dozens of meters away. Then, Tan Xiu dialed the 110 police number and said, "I'm looking for your Public Security Bureau chief." "Hello, may I ask who you are?" A sweet voice came from the phone. "Tell your chief that I'm from the security department." "My name is Tan Xiu," said Tan Xiu lightly. "He can call his superior if he doesn't believe me." The other side didn't reply for a long time. When Tan Xiu was a bit impatient, a middle-aged man's voice came over, "Hello, I'm Wang Sen, the Deputy Chief of the Public Security Bureau. You said that you're from the security department. Do you have any evidence?" "I just told you to report to your superior if you don't believe me," said Tan Xiu. "I have something I need you to do. Be quick." Jingmen Island, the Public Security Bureau. Wang Sen's brows were tightly furrowed and hesitation could be seen in his eyes. He didn't know how true this call was, but if he rashly contacted his superior and the other party deliberately made up a lie, it would be a big trouble. At the very least, his superior wouldn't give him a good face. But if what he said was true, then he would be in big trouble. Wang Sen thought for several seconds and then said, "Mr. Tang, right? Please wait for a moment. I'll contact my superior right away. Also, I can also report to you on the phone if you need anything. Tell him that Jingmen Island is too chaotic right now," said Tan Xiu. "There are too many cats and dogs here. I'll help him clean them up tonight, but I still need you to deal with the aftermath." Wang Sen pondered for a moment and said, "All right, please wait a moment." In a high-end residential area only 5 or 6 kilometers away from the Public Security Bureau, Chen Bing was awakened by his mobile phone's ringtone. Not long after he picked up the phone, the sleepiness on his face disappeared without a trace. With a bit of solemnity, he dialed Tan Xiu's cell number. "I'm Xing Bing, the chief of the Public Security Bureau. You said that you're Tan Xiu from the security department?" "That's right. It's me," said Tan Xiu. "Please don't joke around, Mr. Tang. This matter is too big. You should be well aware of the consequences if you're lying, said Xing Bing. You can contact your superior if you don't believe me. He should be able to get in touch with someone from my department, said Tan Xiu. Also, you can contact someone from the Special Abilities Bureau. I believe Duan Mulin can also confirm my identity. Special Abilities Bureau? Duan Mulin. Xing Bing's expression greatly changed and a horrified look appeared in his eyes. It was impossible for an ordinary chief of the Public Security Bureau to know about Duan Mulin's existence, but Xing Bing was crystal clear about it because he had once been involved in a major criminal case. It was at that time that he learned about the existence of the Special Abilities Bureau in China, as well as the existence of ability users. The boss of the Special Abilities Bureau was none other than Duan Mulin. There's no need to confirm it, Mr. Tang. Just tell us if you need anything. Our Public Security Bureau will do our best to cooperate with you, said Xing Bing respectfully. I'm not supposed to care about the public security issues in Jingmen Island, said Tan Xiu. But someone is now bullying me, and this person is also the leader of Jingmen Island's underground forces. I don't want to keep this scumbag alive. Immediately bring some people to the Everlasting Feast Hall to help me solve the follow-up issues. Xing Bing's face turned dark. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu would criticize the public security issues in Jingmen Island. He didn't expect that some blind guy would dare to find trouble with him. Despite feeling helpless inside, he still respectfully said, I'll bring some people there right away, Mr. Tang. But can you tell me in advance who the other party is? How many underground forces leaders are there in Jingmen Island, exactly? Asked Tan Xiu coldly. This, Xing Bing could only force a wry smile inwardly. As the chief of the Public Security Bureau, he was very clear about the underground forces in Jingmen Island. There were at least a dozen of them. However, although some of the things they did couldn't see the light of day, they didn't do anything that would cause the wrath of the heavens. Even if they did it secretly without leaving any traces. Thus, the Public Security Bureau had no way to deal with them. All right, hurry up and bring some people here, said Tan Xiu. You'll naturally know who it is when you arrive. Having said that, Tan Xiu directly hung up the phone. Xing Bing shook his head helplessly. But after thinking about it, he immediately called the city leader and conveyed the situation. When the city leader heard the name Duan Mulin, he immediately decided to personally deal with it. At the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tan Xiu waited quietly for less than half an hour before more than a dozen cars rushed in. The Everlasting Feast Hall's members had received the order in advance, so they didn't stop them. Creak, along with the sound of the brakes, a strong man with lethal weapons quickly got out of the car. He glared at Tan Xiu and the others like a tiger watching its prey. After getting out of the car, Guo Fugue saw Lu Hao's group of 4 being restrained. He stared blankly for a moment before he came to Tan Xiu's group with a cold face and asked in a deep voice, "Who's the person in charge here?" Tan Xiu opened his eyes and observed Guo Fugue. Then, he lightly smiled and said, "It seems that fate is really wonderful. You were supposed to be rich and powerful all your life, just like your name. But who would have thought that you would provoke me? That's why your fate has changed. What awaits you now is a prison sentence. It seems that you're the person in charge, brat," said Guo Fugue disdainfully. "I, Guo Fugue, am not afraid of anything in heaven or earth. No one who can put me in prison has been born yet. Tell me, where did your people hide Yang Yan?" Chapter 989. Tan Xiu shook his head and indifferently said, "I've already sent them out of the country, so don't waste your efforts." "But why do you keep chasing after Yang Yan? Why do you want to kill her?" "As far as I know, the Huang family should no longer pursue the matter of Zhuo Dequan and Zhuo Qing, right?" Guo Fugue was surprised and asked in a deep voice, "You actually know about the Huang and Zhuo families? Who exactly are you? Haven't you seen it yourself?" Tan Xiu chuckled. "I'm the Everlasting Feast Hall's owner." Guo Fugue frowned and shook his head. As far as I know, the Everlasting Feast Hall's owner is Gu Xiaoxue, not you. Where the hell did you come from? What you need to care about now is not me, but your own safety, said Tan Xiu. I can tell you responsibly that Yang Yan and her brother have really been sent away by my men. You can find trouble with me if you feel unhappy about it, but I'm sure you'll regret it. Regret? Guo Fugui sneered. With just you? You think you're so great just because you're the Everlasting Feast Hall's owner? Let me tell you, you're going against me and the Huang family of Fukang by shielding Yang Yan and her brother. The Huang family wants Zhuo Dequan and Zhuo Qing's lives, and I'm going to kill Yang Yan who helped Zhuo Qing escape. You'll die if you don't give us an explanation today. I already told you that the enmity between the Huang and Zhuo Dequan has ended, and the Huang family will no longer pursue the matter of Zhuo Qing, said Tan Xiu. As for Yang Yan, she was just helping her friend. She has nothing to do with this matter. If you know what's good for you, you'll immediately take your men and scram. Don't trouble Zhuo Qing and Yang Yan ever again. Remember, this is an opportunity. I'm giving you a chance for the sake of the Huang family's head, Huang Jinfu. Otherwise, I won't spare you even if the Huang family's head comes. Guo Fugui looked at Tan Xiu as though he was looking at an idiot and sighed. TSK, TSK. Kid, why do you look so real? Who do you think you are? And he was giving face to Huang Jinfu. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He doesn't know how to spell the word, death. Finished. He took a few steps back and waved his arm. Suddenly, dozens of strong men with weapons in their hands raised the machetes in their hands. Some of them even took out guns and pistols, aiming the muzzles at Tan Xiu and the others. Tan Xiu sat cross-legged without moving, but his expression turned cold as he said, "Don't kill them, but crippling them is fine. Getting rid of these scum of society can reduce some of the damage done to the good people." Guo Fugui sneered, "You sound like you're telling the truth. Do you think you're a cop? You're even thinking about others. What a joke." Tan Xiu shook his head as he watched Mo's group of 5 rush into the crowd like lightning. They were like tigers entering a flock of sheep with simple and crude attacks. The other party simply had no time to defend and immediately fell to the ground. Several middle-aged men with pistols and guns had their tendons cut by Mo's dagger lightning fast and snatched their guns. 10 seconds passed. Dozens of aggressive and ruthless men were easily knocked down by Mo's group of 5. A thick smell of blood wafted in the air along with mournful screams. Guo Fugui, who was originally confident in his victory, was now dumbfounded. His heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. How is this possible? The men he brought here all had martial arts foundation. The most powerful among them had participated in martial arts competitions and achieved very good results. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and floated down from the roof. He looked at the shocked Guo Fugui and said, "I just gave you a chance, but you wasted it. Even if you mention the Fukang province's Huang family to me, it's useless. Kneel down and hold your head if you don't want to end up like your men." Kneel down. A thick killing intent burst out from Guo Fugui's eyes. He might not be able to cover the sky with one hand in Jingmen Island all these years, but he was not a pushover who could be manipulated by others. How would he be able to mingle in Jingmen Island in the future if he gave in today? Would he still have the face to go out and meet people? Suddenly, Guo Fugui pulled out a pistol from his waist. He stepped back and directly aimed at Tan Xiu, shouting, "Your men are very powerful. They're almost as powerful as the martial arts grandmasters I know. But I want to see if their speed is faster, or a bullet. Don't force me. I've won many shooting competitions. It's easy for me to aim at your head." Tan Xiu applauded and smilingly said, "You've got guts. No wonder you can have such a big family business in Jingmen Island. But you seem to have made a mistake. Those men of yours were also holding guns, but what happened to them?" Guo Fugui's face turned pale, but he still shouted, "They were just caught off guard, so they were sneak attacked by your men." I don't want to kill you, brat, but don't force me. Today's matter will be dropped for the time being, but you must give me an explanation for letting Yang Yan go. Tan Xiu shook his head and coldly snorted, you really have a death wish. Whoosh, Mo Ao's figure flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Guofugue. His hand grabbed the spearhead lightning fast and punched Guofugue's cheek. The man let out a blood-curdling scream as half of his face collapsed and his body was sent flying to the right. Bam, Guofugue's body was very sturdy, and his physique was also very sturdy. After landing heavily on the cement floor, he felt like he was going to fall apart. The pain on his body and face, as well as the injuries on his body, were things that he had not experienced in a long time. Tan Xiu shot him an indifferent look and said in a deep voice, knock them all out and let him bandage them. I don't want them to die here. Understood. Mo Ao's group of 5 immediately kicked those who fell on the ground and howled in pain. After knocking them out, they quickly took out bandages and bandaged those who were bleeding. A few minutes passed. Along with flashing sirens, more than a dozen police cars came roaring and quickly arrived at the parking lot under the watchful eyes of Tan Xiu and the others. A large number of policemen and armed police officers rushed out of the cars and immediately aimed their guns at Tan Xiu and the others. Li Daoren, as a city leader and the most powerful person in Jingmen Island, couldn't help but suck in a mouthful of cold air when he saw the scene in front of him. Xing Bing and Wang Sun, who were next to him, had their eyes wide open, flashing with horror. They often led teams in operations and had fought many lawbreakers, but when had they ever seen such a scene? A total of 40 to 50 people were lying on the ground like dead dogs. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. As for the policemen, they were shocked by the scene in front of them at the moment. Their hands holding the guns were trembling. Li Daoren strode forward and asked in a deep voice, may I ask which one of you is Mr. Tang, Tan Xiu? I am, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Hello, Mr. Tang. Please show me your ID. Li Daoren nodded. Tan Xiu directly took out the green book from the Ministry of State Security and handed it to Li Daoren, saying, you're not bad. You received my call and came here in such a short time. However, I'm still very dissatisfied with the security issues in Jingmen Island. I saved 2 people from these people late at night, and then they came here to retaliate against me. Look at the weapons on the ground, there are even pistols and firearms. These people should be considered as the underworld forces, right? Li Daoren's pupils suddenly shrunk when he saw the big characters on the green book. He opened it and looked at it a few times before returning it to Tan Xiu and bitterly said, Mr. Tang, I'm Li Daoren, the secretary of Jingmen Island. I'm really sorry. This is the responsibility of Jingmen Island's leaders. You can rest assured that I'll thoroughly investigate this matter and will absolutely prevent this kind of thing from happening again in the future. As a local official, the most basic requirement is to provide a peaceful and happy environment for the common people. Tan Xiu nodded. Since these criminals have been subdued by the everlasting feast hall's security guards, then take them all away. Li Daoren immediately nodded and said, these people have violated the criminal law and are bound to be tried by the law. Thank you very much, Mr. Tang. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid these criminals would have gotten away scot-free. It's my responsibility, so you don't need to be polite, Tan Xiu said with a smile. That's right, their leader is Guofugue. I heard that he has quite a big influence in Jingmen Island and has a lot of shady businesses. I hope you can thoroughly investigate all the bad things he has done when you handle this case. I'm Xing Bing, the City Public Security Bureau Chief, Mr. Tang, said Xing Bing immediately. I'm really sorry about today's incident. You can rest assured that we'll thoroughly investigate Guofugue's background. Aside from today's crime, we'll find out everything else and make him stay in prison forever. Then take them away. Tan Xiu said with a smile. At this time, 2 SUVs came at lightning speed and quickly stopped next to the police cars. Surrounded by a dozen strong men, Ouyang Lei pushed away the policeman who tried to stop him and came to Tan Xiu and Li Daoren. Then, He curiously asked, "What happened?" "Uncle, how come you're here?" Pointing to Tan Xiu, Li Daoren said, "This is Tan Xiu from the security department, Mr. Tang. We received a call from him and learned that criminals were attacking the Everlasting Feast Hall, so I personally led a team to come here." "But you, what are you doing here instead of sleeping in the middle of the night?" "Tan Xiu is actually from the security department?" Ouyang Lei asked with a strange expression. "That's awesome. Uncle, have you not guessed Tan Xiu's identity?" "What identity?" Li Daoren was confused. Cough, cough, Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He never dreamed that Li Daoren, whom he had just preached to, turned out to be Ouyang Lei and Ouyang Lulu's uncle. According to seniority, shouldn't he also address him as uncle? Ouyang Lei looked at Li Daoren and then at Tan Xiu, who had a forced smile on his face. Then, he suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Uncle, how many Tan Xiu are there in Huaxia? Are there any Tan Xiu relatives of the Ouyang family?" Chapter 990. Li Daoren blinked and suddenly recalled something. With a strange expression, he said, "I remember now. Are you Lulu's?" "That's right. I'm Lulu's boyfriend," Tan Xiu replied with a dry smile. "This. Secretary Li, I didn't know that you're Lulu's uncle, so I spoke a bit, please don't mind me." Cough, cough. Li Daoren touched his nose, being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He knew Tan Xiu because of Tan Xiu's reputation as a divine doctor in Chinese medicine, and also because of his niece, Ouyang Lulu. What happened here before, as well as Tan Xiu's identity, didn't make him think about it. But now that he knew about it, he recalled that he was reprimanded by a junior. It was really embarrassing. However, Tan Xiu's identity as a member of the security department made him secretly shocked. He said, "You can't be blamed if you don't know. I've been wanting to see Lulu's boyfriend before, but I didn't expect that we would meet under such circumstances tonight. Anyways, why did you come here in the middle of the night?" It's the treasure my family got some time ago. I'm going to show it to Tan Xiu," said Ouyang Lei with a smile. "We agreed to meet here more than an hour ago. I didn't expect that such a thing would happen here." Li Daoren nodded and said, "All right, I won't ask about the matter between you two. Tan Xiu, since you're Lulu's boyfriend, we're also family. Remember to take Lulu to our home when you have time. Also, remember to bring her to Senior Tang for me. Do you know my grandpa?" Tan Xiu nodded and curiously asked. "My father used to be Senior Tang's guard." Li Daoren nodded and said, "But he was injured a few years ago, so he retired in Jingmen Island. I met Senior Tang with my father more than 20 years ago." Tan Xiu suddenly understood and immediately became closer to Li Daoren. He said with a smile, "I'll call you uncle like Lulu. I'll definitely bring her to you if you want me to." Li Daoren nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, "Lulu is very lucky to find such a young and talented boyfriend like you. You have to be good in the future, or else I, as your uncle, will not agree to it." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Definitely." Li Daoren and the police left as quickly as they came. In less than 10 minutes, they had taken Guo Fugue and the others away, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground and the smell of blood in the air. Because of Tan Xiu's identity, Gu Xiaoxue only said a few words in the police statement. As for Guo Fugue's fate, it had nothing to do with Tan Xiu. However, Guo Fugue seemed to have some relationship with the Fukang province's Huang family, so he needed to take some time to visit the Huang family and meet the Huang family's patriarch, Huang Jinfu. Very soon, Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lei were led by Gu Xiaoxue to a spacious private room in the restaurant. As the fragrant tea was served, Gu Xiaoxue personally made tea for the two of them. Only then did she obediently walk to the side and sit down. Ouyang Lei glanced at Gu Xiaoxue and forced a smile. "I wouldn't have the self-control to sit in front of Miss Gu if I didn't have a girlfriend. I've seen a lot of beauties, but I'm afraid only a few in the world can compare with Gu Xiaoxue. Ouyang Lei, Are you saying that Lulu is worse than me? Gu Xiaoxue said with a faint smile. Ouyang Lei was stunned and immediately let out a hollow laugh. Tan Xiu said, Brother Lei, don't dawdle. Hurry up and show me the treasure of your Ouyang family. I'm very curious about what it is. Ouyang Lei nodded and picked up the lockbox at his feet. After placing it flat on the coffee table, he went through a program and entered several passwords before opening the lockbox. This is the treasure of our Ouyang family, Tan Xiu. Those archaeologists, historians, and even many famous domestic collectors can't understand what it is. Take a look. It'll be great if you can recognize it. Tan Xiu's eyes fell on the oval-shaped object in the lockbox. Disbelief was written all over his face. He never dreamed that he would see it again in this life. How did you get this thing? Tan Xiu looked up and asked with difficulty. Ouyang Lei's expression moved. He didn't rush to answer Tan Xiu's question and instead asked, Do you know what it is? Tan Xiu's expression didn't look good. There was even a bit of haze and pain in his eyes. He replied in a low voice, I know. No one in this world knows it better than me. Ouyang Lei was aware of Tan Xiu's unusual expression. Although he was eager to figure out what it was, he still said, A distant uncle of my Ouyang family took some people to an overseas island to capture fierce beasts some time ago and prepared to use the beast's viscera to make wine. They killed a fierce beast and brought its corpse back. They found it in the fierce beast's body during the dissection process. Inside a fierce beast's body. Tan Xiu slowly closed his eyes. It was the only possibility that this thing had not been oxidized. Otherwise, it would have dissipated after being exposed to the air for a few years. After a while, Tan Xiu opened his eyes. His fingers were a bit trembling as he gently picked up the oval-shaped object and held it in his hand. After calmly stroking it for a long time, he bitterly said, I just said that no one in this world knows what it is better than me. It's because I'm the one who refined it. Ouyang Lei was surprised and asked, You refined it? What do you mean? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, Brother Lei, give it to me. I'm willing to exchange anything your Ouyang family needs for it. What? Ouyang Lei was shocked by Tan Xiu's words and looked awkward. Brother Lei, this thing is refined by me, so it belongs to me, said Tan Xiu. It's a treasure in my hands, but it's useless in the hands of others. There are only 2 people in this world who can open it. Ouyang Lei stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, Open it? What do you mean? Could it be that this thing was empty? Is there something else inside? Tan Xiu didn't answer him. He bit it and forced out a drop of blood. Ancient characters were engraved with his blood, and then he pressed his finger on the oval-shaped object. Immediately, the ancient characters turned into specks of blood and constantly spread out on the oval-shaped object. Kacha, the object cracked open and a sparkling and translucent white bead appeared in front of Tan Xiu, Ouyang Lei, and Gu Xiaoxue. Tan Xiu picked up the egg-sized white bead with a complicated expression and muttered to himself, Our bond will be forever tied. My heart will change yours until the end of our lives. The oath of undying love and undying love in the past seems so ridiculous now. Nothing is more painful than betrayal in both my past and present lives. Buzz, the white bead in Tan Xiu's hand burst out a dazzling light. In just a few seconds, the white light gradually dissipated and a pixie with flapping wings and a staff appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Her big round eyes curiously looked around. When she saw Tan Xiu, she blinked and asked, Who are you, Tan Xiu? Why do I feel that you're very familiar? Where's Master? Where's my master? She hasn't let little Wu Wu out for a long time. Tan Xiu took a deep breath. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes as he sternly shouted, Shut the hell up. The pixie's body trembled and a frightened look appeared in her eyes. She flew out of Tan Xiu's palm and quietly floated in the air 5 meters away. She then pouted and said, You scolded little Wu Wu. Little Wu Wu. Little Wu Wu wants to get angry. But why can't little Wu Wu get angry? Who are you? Why does little Woo Woo feel that you're very familiar, but I've never seen you before? I told you to shut the hell up. I'll burn you to ashes with the 9 lotus karmic flame if you dare to utter another word, said Tan Xiu in a cold voice. Ah, the pixie looked horrified and flew to the wall in the distance. She then trembled and flapped her wings. She floated there and didn't dare to utter a word, but her big eyes were wide open. She recalled that there was no one else who could release the 9 lotus karmic flame except for Supremacy Tan Xiu, Master's Mr. Right. No wonder. No wonder she felt that his aura was very familiar. It turned out that he only changed his appearance. He's Master's Mr. Right. The pixie really wanted to ask where her master was. But looking at the murderous look on Tan Xiu's face, as well as his threat just now, she could only stare at Tan Xiu and didn't dare to utter another word. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and looked at Ouyang Lei, saying, Brother Lei, there are some things I can't tell you, so I hope you can forgive me. I have a deep relationship with her master. Even the vessel that contains her was personally refined by me. Give it to me and you can ask for compensation. Ouyang Lei was stunned by the appearance of the pixie. If it weren't for Tan Xiu's words that pulled him back from the shock, he would have been in a daze for a long time. Ouyang Lei gulped down and was somewhat at a loss. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and suddenly said, an immortal artifact refined by a real immortal. An immortal artifact refined by a real immortal has infinite power. It's definitely a divine weapon for cultivators. An immortal artifact? Ouyang Lei looked at the pixie and thought about the immortal artifact. He immediately slapped his thigh and said, I'll make the decision. Deal. Tan Xiu looked at Gu Xiaoxue and said, remember to take an immortal sword from Ji Qi Mei and send it to the Ouyangs. Also, teach them the method to control the immortal sword. Gu Xiaoxue was also shocked at the moment. But she was, after all, a cultivator at the Golden Core stage, so her mental fortitude was much stronger than Ouyang Lei's. She silently nodded and said, I'll ask Elder Ji for the immortal sword when I see her. Tan Xiu looked at the tangled pixie and made a hand seal. Suddenly, a stream of qi wrapped the pixie and pulled her into the oval vessel. The pixie panicked and shouted, Don't lock Xiao Wuwu. Xiao Wuwu doesn't want to stay inside. Release Xiao Wuwu. Xiao Wuwu wants to see Master. Boo-hoo. Xiao Wuwu misses Master. Chapter 991. Tan Xiu showed no mercy and resolutely closed the oval-shaped container. The pixie's cries could no longer be heard. After putting it into his interspatial ring, Tan Xiu was about to speak when Gu Yen's figure suddenly appeared in front of him. I can sense the existence of a spiritual object, Master. The white-clothed Gu Yen spoke with a puzzled look on her beautiful face. Tan Xiu nodded without a word and said, She's the little princess of the Violet Elf clan. I happened to meet her and bought her from a slave trader after her clan was exterminated. Although I don't know how she came to Earth, one thing is certain. It's definitely related to her. Gu Yen's expression slightly changed. She was very reluctant to hear Tan Xiu mention that woman. After hesitating for a while, she said, Master, do you want me to exterminate that Violet Elf princess? No need. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I still want to use her to verify something. Gu Yen nodded without a word. The moment Ouyang Lei saw Gu Yen, he felt as though he was struck by lightning and froze. He had seen countless beauties, including some of the best ones. But none of them could be compared to Gu Yen, in front of him. She was like an aloof goddess, holy and beautiful. Her beauty was simply soul-stirring, making his heartbeat speed up involuntarily. Once upon a time, Ouyang Lei had only heard that a holy and beautiful goddess could only be seen from afar and should never be blasphemed. He had always been dismissive of this saying, thinking that it was just people exaggerating and that such a woman simply did not exist in this world. But now, he believed it. Ouyang Lei even felt that it was blasphemy for him to stare at her directly. Future brother-in-law, Who is she? After Ouyang Lei sobered up from his daze, he stammered and asked with a blushing face. Tan Xiu looked at him with a strange expression and said, "She's my apprentice and the founder of the Everlasting Feast Hall." What? Ouyang Lei was dumbfounded. The breathtakingly beautiful woman in front of him looked like she was in her 20s. How could she be the founder of the Everlasting Feast Hall? It must be noted that the Everlasting Feast Hall had been established decades ago, and the founder's age was probably no less than 20 or 30 years old. Could it be that the goddess in front of him was already 40 or 50 years old? He didn't see that when he called Tan Xiu, Gu Yan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He also didn't feel that the surrounding temperature had dropped by several degrees. Future brother-in-law, are you joking with me? If she is your disciple, I can reluctantly accept it. But it was impossible for her to be the founder of the Everlasting Feast Hall. How old was she? How many years has the Everlasting Feast Hall been established? Ouyang Lei finally stopped stuttering, but his face was full of disbelief. Shut up. Gu finally couldn't bear it anymore and angrily shouted, "Had it been in the past, I would have extracted your soul and burned it with the 9 underworld demonic flame for 1,000 years just based on the way you addressed me as master. Afterward, I would have destroyed your soul and made you unable to reincarnate forever." Address? Never once did Ouyang Lei expect that the stunning beauty in front of him would suddenly erupt and speak such vicious words. But, was it wrong to address him as such? Tan Xiu was his younger sister's boyfriend. They were not married yet, so shouldn't it be right for him to address him as future brother-in-law? Although Tan Xiu didn't want Ouyang Lei to address him as future brother-in-law, he was, after all, Ouyang Lulu's big brother, and he couldn't embarrass him. Moreover, he had just delivered the purple fairy into his hands, so it could be said that he owed him a favor. Gu walked to Tan Xiu's side and sat down next to him. She skillfully pulled Tan Xiu's arm and said with a bit of dissatisfaction, "Master, doesn't want to be addressed as such. You haven't officially married his younger sister, so he can't just casually claim your relationship. If you don't want to hear him address you as such, I'll seal his mouth." Cough, cough. Tan Xiu coughed a few times and glanced at Ouyang Lei, who subconsciously shrunk his neck and said with a dry smile, Ouyang Lei is Ouyang Lulu's big brother. We're on the same side, so please be polite with your words. Also, Ouyang Lei, pay attention to your words later. Don't call him future brother-in-law or future brother-in-law. Sometimes, even a title like that will make others feel disgusted. Ouyang Lei's head nodded like a chicken pecking rice. He hurriedly promised, No, brother Tan Xiu. I'll never call you as such again in the future. This Miss I'm really sorry. I was just joking, please don't mind me. Gu Yan's expression changed and said with dissatisfaction, "Except for my master, all the people who called me are dead. Remember, my surname is Gu." Ouyang Lei's heart was tangled. If it weren't for the goddess in front of him being too beautiful, he wouldn't have been able to bear it. Suppressing his depression, he let out a dry smile and said, "I understand, Miss Gu Gu snorted and turned to look at Tan Xiu. Her tone changed again, and with a bit of a coquettish tone, she said, "Master, has something to tell you, but only you." A feeling of helplessness arose inside Tan Xiu's heart. How could he not hear that Gu was ordering Ouyang Lei to leave? With no other choice, he looked at Ouyang Lei and said with a dry smile, "Well, brother Lei, you can go back first if there's nothing else. At most, in a few days, I will send Xiao Shui to deliver the promised immortal sword to your Ouyang family and personally hand it over to you." "What immortal sword is it, master?" Gu asked curiously. "The Ouyangs helped me find the violet fairy, so I promised to compensate them with an immortal sword," said Tan Xiu. Gu immediately understood and directly took out a beautifully designed immortal sword from her interspatial ring. She threw it to Ouyang Lei and said, "This is the immortal sword my master promised to give you. Take it and leave quickly." Even if you don't want to rest in the middle of the night, my master still needs to rest. Ouyang Lei was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He couldn't figure out how a stunning goddess like Gu Yan could be so merciless with her words. Just a moment ago, she had tactfully asked him to leave, but now, she was blatantly driving him away. If Tan Xiu hadn't asked him to come here, he wouldn't have come to the everlasting feast hall at this time. He stood up. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly remembered something very important. He let out a dry smile and said, Miss Gu Yan, I still have something to ask Tan Xiu. You see, just say it, said Tan Xiu with an expression of being at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. You haven't taught me how to refine an immortal weapon yet. Ouyang Lei said with an unnatural expression. It's useless for me to take it back. Gu Yan, didn't wait for Tan Xiu to speak. She raised her jade-like hand and a golden rune entered Ouyang Lei's sea of consciousness. She then said, this is the method to refine an immortal weapon. I'll directly engrave it in your sea of consciousness. You'll understand it once you go back and read it. Ouyang Lei's body stiffened and fear crazily grew inside his heart. He did find that a golden rune had suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness, but this strange situation was far beyond his understanding. Brother Lei, Yan, is right. She has already engraved the method to refine an immortal sword into your sea of consciousness. You can go back and read it. Tan Xiu said. Oh. Ouyang Lei stood up in a daze, took the immortal sword and walked out of the room. He went to the parking lot and sat in his S-Series Mercedes-Benz. Then, as if awakening from a dream, he broke out in a cold sweat. He ignored his men who asked him where he should go and quickly looked at the golden rune. The golden rune suddenly turned into specks of light and floated in his sea of consciousness. It then disappeared without a trace in just a few seconds. Amazing. It's so amazing. If someone can use this magical method to continuously inject all kinds of knowledge into my sea of consciousness, then I only need to observe it once to fully master it. That would be awesome. How did she do it? Is this the means of a cultivator? If so, I must become a cultivator in the future and have this kind of ability to turn something rotten into something magical. Ouyang Lei clenched his fists and fiercely waved them a few times. Then, he shouted, let's go back to the family. Inside the box. Tan Xiu looked at Gu Yan, and asked, you just said that you have something to say. What is it? It was just an excuse to make Ouyang Lei leave. Gu Yan, giggled. I've already put away the exquisite pagoda, master. When are we going to Nine Dragons Island? Let's go now, then. Tan Xiu said. It hasn't been peaceful over there in the past 2 days. Some cultivators have been spotted there. If we don't arrange it in advance and let the Everlasting Feast Hall's members fight those people, we'll suffer a huge loss. Also, the existence of Nine Dragons Island must not be exposed. Hence, I'm going to find a deserted island and arrange a feng shui array there to attract the attention of cultivators all over the world. Just leave this matter to me, master, Gu Yan said with a smile. You're suppressed by the heavenly Tao laws of this world. Tan Xiu shook his head. You can't easily unleash your power even if you have the power of an immortal. Besides, you haven't fully healed yet, so don't use too much of your power. Just leave it to me. You just need to arrange the exquisite pagoda and recuperate inside. Gu Yan thought for a while and nodded. Yan will listen to master's arrangement. Quickly. Tan Xiu, Gu Yan, and Gu Xiaoxue appeared in the parking lot, while several core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall were already waiting for them. Tan Xiu glanced at them before his eyes fell on Qi Nan and said, Qi Nan, you're staying here to take care of the Everlasting Feast Hall's business. You're the general manager of the restaurant from today onward. I'll send someone to replace you a year later, and then you can go to Nine Dragons Island to cultivate. Qi Nan instinctively wanted to refuse. She wanted to go to Nine Dragons Island right now and fight those cultivators who harassed the island. However, under Tan Xiu's gaze, she could only bite the bullet and nod. It's indeed a bit unfair for you to stay in the country, Tan Xiu said with a smile. But HQ will double the quota of resources you get every year as compensation. Thank you, boss. Qi Nan's depressed mood instantly dissipated after hearing it. Chapter 992. The distance between Jingmen Island and Nine Dragons Island was more than 1,000 miles. It would probably take them a day or two to reach there if they were to travel according to normal speed. But with Gu Yan's presence, it only took her a dozen seconds to take Tan Xiu and several members of the Everlasting Feast Hall outside the Nine Dragons Island's grand array. I'm afraid that only you can arrange such a grand array on Earth, Master. Even Ji Qimei can't do it better than you now. Gu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration with a smile on her face. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and looked at the dumbfounded and shocked core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Then, he said, don't waste time. It's easy for you to enter directly given your strength. Gu let out a faint smile. Her figure flashed and she immediately appeared on the square in front of the palace on Nine Dragons Island with everyone. Figures flashed lightning fast and several experts arrived in front of everyone in just a few breaths. Boss. The experts looked pleasantly surprised and saluted Tan Xiu and Gu at the same time. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, go do your things. Inform On to come see me while you're at it. Understood. Soon after, more than a dozen people dispersed. After receiving the notice, Mo On appeared in front of Tan Xiu, Gu and the others as fast as he could. Especially after seeing Gu an excited look flashed in his eyes as he respectfully saluted. On, they have just arrived on Nine Dragons Island. Settle them down first and then gather all the core members in the main hall. I have something important to announce, ordered Tan Xiu. With a solemn expression, Mo On nodded and left with more than a dozen people. He was well aware of his boss, Tan Xiu's character. His boss would never rush everyone if there was nothing important. Ever since a large number of core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall arrived on Nine Dragons Island, his boss had only preached to everyone in the small hall. Master. Gu Yin was like a fluttering butterfly. Her colorful dress fluttered in the wind, and her laughter sounded like silver bells. She rushed over from afar, and then intimately threw herself into Tan Xiu's arms. Tan Xiu picked her up with a smile and spun her around twice before putting her down. He said with a smile, Baby Yin, greet your eldest senior sister. Gu Yin observed Gu a few times and immediately learned the salute posture of the Everlasting Feast Hall's members. She saluted and said, Yin greets senior sister. The corners of Gu Yin's mouth curled up. She stuffed a supreme-grade immortal sword into Gu Yin's hand, and several ancient talismans instantly entered Gu Yin's body. He chuckled and said, I've given you the immortal sword and the refinement method. I've also imparted to you the other techniques that I've comprehended in the past. When your cultivation breaks through to the nascent soul stage, you will be able to see the contents of the absolute art. Yin, your physique is very good. It's rare to see it in the immortal world. If you cultivate properly, your future achievements will be limitless. Gu Yin firmly nodded and said, Senior sister, I'll definitely cultivate diligently and protect you and master in the future. Pfft, Gu covered her mouth and chuckled as she intimately stroked her soft black hair. Shortly after, Tan Xiu introduced Mu Qingping to Gu Gu had experienced a lot in the immortal world, so she naturally knew what it meant to be her master's housekeeper. It meant that Mu Qingping was the person her master trusted the most. Furthermore, she was Gu Yin's mother, so she was very polite to Mu Qingping, which made Mu Qingping feel flattered. 2 hours later. Apart from a dozen core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall who were carrying out missions around the world, everyone else had rushed to the Great Hall in the central area of Nine Dragons Island. The Great Hall, which could accommodate 100,000 people, only had 100 or 200 people present, making it look particularly empty. With his hands behind his back, Tan Xiu stood straight on the podium at the northern end of the hall. On his left stood Gu Yan, while on his right stood Mu Qingping. His eyes lingered on more than 100 core members of the everlasting feast hall. "Everyone is here, boss." Mo On shot lightning fast from the outside of the hall's entrance and came before Tan Xiu and respectfully reported. Tan Xiu nodded and followed Mo On back to the neat queue below. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Today is the day when all the core members of the everlasting feast hall have arrived. Even my disciple, Gu Yan, has arrived. After getting along with each other for 2 years, I believe everyone is already clear about this Tan Xiu's character and temperament, as well as my conduct. Today is the day the everlasting feast hall will be disbanded and the day a new sect will be established. Now, I can responsibly ask all of you, who is dissatisfied with me? You can quit now. But if all of you choose to stay, you will need to be loyal in the future. You will need to fight, and you will need to be strong and strong. Who wants to quit?" The 100 to 200 people in the entire hall looked at Tan Xiu with solemn expressions. No one spoke. With a firm and fanatical look on their faces, they raised their fists and heavily pounded their left chests. "All of you are very good," said Tan Xiu with satisfaction. "I need you to follow me in the future. I need you to fight side by side with me, fighting against hundreds of millions of enemies and races. You will follow me, stepping on mountains of corpses and bathing in seas of blood. We will kill our way into the higher planes of the immortal world, demon world, spirit world, Buddha world, ghost world, and countless mysterious and unpredictable small worlds. As long as you can live and follow my footsteps, some of you may follow me into the higher planes of the God world, which is higher than the immortal world, demon world, and so on. Immortals are existences you once looked up to, while gods are existences I once looked up to. If you follow me, you must be prepared to kill immortals and gods. If you die, perhaps your souls will scatter and vanish forever in the myriad worlds. But if you live, you will become existences that countless races look up to. The everlasting feast hall was once a small force that Yen temporarily established to find me. From now on, the everlasting feast hall is just a restaurant that does business in China and makes money to buy resources. But we need a sect, a more solid collective. Tang sect. From now on, our sect will be called the Tang sect. And I will be the first sect master of the Tang sect." As Tan Xiu spoke up to there, his face turned extremely solemn. He looked at the excited members and secretly felt satisfied. He could feel everyone's respect and worship for him. He could feel that they loved this collective, whether it was the everlasting feast hall or the Tang sect. Love. Support. This was the foundation of a sect. A single tree could hardly make a forest. Only with everyone's approval and support could the entire sect develop and become more and more powerful in the future. Tang sect. Tang sect. Tang sect. Like roaring waves, the sound waves seemed to break through the tens of meters high roof and soared straight into the sky, shocking the entire world. At the same time, the bright sun in the sky suddenly turned dim. In just half a minute, dark clouds covered the sky, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. An ancient aura that had experienced the vicissitudes of life appeared over Nine Dragons Island. A huge pressure fell from the sky and instantly caused the island's protective array to shake and crumble as though it would break at any time. Standing next to Tan Xiu, Gu Yan wore a cold expression. Her figure instantly disappeared and reappeared hundreds of meters high in the sky the next moment. A long sword tore the sky and released a terrifying power. In a flash, the entire world seemed to freeze. Break. A hazy phantom separated from Gu Yan's body and expanded thousands of times in a flash. It was like a giant that could support the sky as the sword beam smashed the dark clouds and thunder. An invisible net hidden in the dark clouds and thunder was torn apart by the 10,000 feet long sword formed by the phantom. The clouds rolled back and the thunder and lightning dissipated. When the world regained its clarity, Gu Yan, crazily coughed up a mouthful of blood. With a crazy wildness, she threw her head back and roared with laughter a few times before her body fell to the ground. Tan Xiao and the 200 new members of Tang sect rushed out of the hall. Although they didn't see what Gu Yan, just did, they could guess what happened. Yan, Tan Xiao was both anxious and angry. He never dreamed that the establishment of Tang sect would trigger a worldly phenomenon that was detected by the heavenly Tao laws of this world, thus resulting in the heavenly Tao's wrath. Never did he expect that Gu Yan would be so reckless as to directly rush up and break the heavenly Tao's might. A cannonball-like figure instantly appeared 100 meters high in the sky and held Gu Yan, in his arms. Tan Xiao looked at her blood-stained lips, yet a bright smile appeared on her face. He felt distressed and cursed, "Do you want to die? You still have serious injuries that haven't healed yet. Damned girl, use your brain when you do things in the future. Even if the heavenly Tao laws punish you and you receive the heavenly Tao's lightning baptism, you won't be able to break my island's protective array and affect everyone on Nine Dragons Island." Gu Yan, coughed a few times and rubbed her delicate face on Tan Xiao's chest. Then, she weakly said, "You can't be bullied even by the heavenly Tao laws, master. Tang sect is the first sect you've established and also the family you're going to pour your heart and soul into. Yan will protect master and the Tang sect even if I have to die." Tan Xiao's heart throbbed. He looked at the bright smile on Gu Yan's face and didn't reprimand her again. He gently kissed her forehead and murmured, "I, Tan Xiao, have done many right things in my life, but the most right thing I did was to raise you and accept you as my disciple." Gu Yan's eyes rippled with happiness and a smile, as though a spring ripple was surging in her eyes. She grabbed Tan Xiao's arm and murmured, "I'll always be your disciple and your child, but I'm not satisfied. I still want to be your woman, generation after generation. Even if the universe is destroyed, even if the immortal world and the God's world are on the verge of destruction, Yan will never want to be separated from master again." Tang Xiao didn't speak again, but the strength he used to hold Gu Yan was much tighter than before. Whether she was his disciple, his child, or his wife, he was very clear about one thing. The Gu Yan in his arms had taken root in his heart and pierced straight into the deepest part of his soul. It would be very difficult to touch her again. Once upon a time, there were two women who had taken root in Tan Xiao's heart. One was his mother, Su Lingyun, who haunted him even though he had been in the immortal world for thousands of years. The other was his beloved wife, Shui Qingcheng, who had hurt his soul. And now, there was another figure in his heart, Gu Yan, in his arms. Chapter 993. After the establishment of the Tang sect, the disciples received a lot of cultivation resources from Ji Qimei. Tan Xiao also gave the refined magic swords to the disciples who didn't have immortal swords. Since Gu Yan was seriously injured, Tan Xiao personally placed the exquisite pagoda in the sea area covered by the island's protective array and let Gu Yan recuperate. Back at the venue, Tan Xiao announced in a deep voice, "I now announce that the Tang sect has 4 major divisions, which is also the usual development method of traditional cultivation sections. They are the God Slaughter Temple, the Logistics Pavilion, the Intelligence Pavilion, and the Assassination Hall. Mo All will take over as the Slaughter Temple's Temple Master and command the Armed Legion. The Slaughter Temple will be the largest armed force of the Tang sect in the future. As it absorbs more and more blood, it will shoulder the mission of expanding the territory in the future, so you must build an iron-blooded legion for me. Ji Qimei will be the Logistics Pavilion Master and will control all the resources of the entire Tang sect. I'll draw up a resource distribution form later. Ji Qimei, you must provide a steady stream of cultivation resources to all the disciples of the Tang sect to ensure that they won't lack cultivation resources in the future. Jean Shi will be the Intelligence Pavilion Master and will be responsible for establishing an intelligence department. You must establish an airtight intelligence network throughout the entire Earth within 2 years. I'll have the God Slaughter Temple cooperate with you to eradicate and nibble away at the Dark Wind, the largest intelligence organization in the world. Tang will be the Assassination Hall Master and will select 2 assistants from the entire Tang sect to train a large number of assassins who are good at assassination. You can choose from thousands of seedlings and I must see the results of your training within 2 years. The appointment of these 4 people proved that they would become the top brass of the Tang sect and would be able to control a large number of disciples and obtain great authority. The reason why Tan Xiu chose these 4 people was based on his understanding of them and the field they were good at. Understood. The 4 people appeared in front of Tan Xiu under the watchful eyes of countless people. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and handed the 4 tokens he had personally refined to the 4 people. Then, he said in a deep voice, the Tang sect has just been established and will be divided into 4 major divisions for the time being. Each of you will be divided into many combinations in the future. I hope you will be loyal to the Tang sect and me. Loyalty. 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 The 4 of them clenched their right fists and placed them on their left chests as they bowed and shouted. Tan Xiu nodded in satisfaction. He waved his hand to dismiss them and then said in a deep voice, all of you are the earliest members of my Tang sect and will be the leading figures of the sect in the future. I hope to see all of you make great contributions. I hope to see all of you become stronger and stronger. There aren't many books that I've written in the library, but there are still more than 200 of them. It includes refining tools, alchemy, formations, taming beasts, body cultivators, soul cultivators, and various other categories. Apart from your own missions, you must find time to go to the library to read and earnestly comprehend. In the future, I'll lead a large number of sect experts to tear open the sky above us and slaughter my way into the vast immortal world that's 1 trillion times larger than Earth. For us cultivators, seeking the Tao and becoming an immortal is the most fundamental foundation. But I can't wait that long to kill my way to the immortal world. Perhaps a few years later, or perhaps a decade later, we will have to execute the final plan. If you want to follow me to ascend to a higher plane and obtain a more vast and wonderful stage, your cultivation must break through to the spirit formation stage. But you're still far from it if you want to break through to the spirit formation stage. Hence, I'll give you resources and opportunities, but whether you can grasp them or not will depend on your own efforts. At this moment, all the members of the Tang sect looked shocked. They didn't know about Tan Xiu's final plan before. They only knew that Tan Xiu had a mysterious origin and was extremely talented. He was bound to achieve great things in the future. But they never expected that Tan Xiu's ultimate goal on Earth turned out to be to kill his way to the immortal world. What shocked them the most was that they also had the opportunity to follow Tan Xiu to kill his way to the ethereal nothingness, the immortal world that all cultivators dreamed of ascending to. After a long while, each of them had their own positions and duties. But every member of the Tang sect was as excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. While they felt the pressure, they also felt a deep sense of motivation. It was because Sect Master Tan Xiu had made it very clear that if they wanted to follow him to the immortal world, their cultivation must break through to the spirit formation stage. Moreover, they didn't have much time left. Given their current cultivation, they still had a long way to go to break through to the spirit formation stage. 2 days later, Tan Xiu sat cross-legged on the top of the palace, breathing and cultivating in front of the rising sun. Tan Xiu keenly grasped the purple qi that came from the east and absorbed it into his body. After such a long period of cultivation, his strength had been steadily improving. But it would take a longer time to cultivate the first layer of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis to the great perfection stage of the star's tyrannical body stage. Stronger. I need to become stronger. Tan Xiu slowly opened his eyes, but a strong desire was growing crazily in his eyes. Regardless of the era, or even the world, there was an absolute law of survival. That was, the strong were respected, and fists were the ones who spoke. But now, he seemed to be very strong, but he was definitely not invincible. Tan Xiu knew that there were still some terrifying figures on Earth, such as the nascent soul stage powerhouse of the whole unitary sect. Whoosh! 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 Several figures flashed from a distance and appeared in front of the palace in just a few breaths. Mo On stepped on the void and came to Tang Xiu's front step by step. Then, he respectfully reported, "All the materials have been delivered, Sect Master. Our men have also found 2 ships near the 13th barren island. However, the people on those ships are obviously not from the same group. They had a brief fight and seemed to be testing each other's strength. How many groups of people have appeared in the vicinity of the surrounding deserted islands recently?" asked Tang Xiu. "Not counting those 2 groups, there have been 6 groups of people," said Mo On. "Including these 2 groups, it's already the 8th group. Most of them have frictions, but there hasn't been a large-scale fight between them. Also, the Celestial Wizard clan has yet to appear. The Celestial Wizard clan's people are probably planning to be the fisherman who benefits from the fight between the Sandpiper and the Clam." Tan Xiu sneered. However, Jin Shi and his men have dealt a heavy blow to the Celestial Wizard clan. They killed hundreds of their people in just a few days and inflicted heavy losses on them. Coupled with the fact that those assassin organizations have been sniping the Celestial Wizard clan's people for money, the Celestial Wizard clan can only hide like turtles and dare not come out. "What should we do now, Sect Master?" asked Mo On. "All the materials have been delivered to the 9th deserted island, so it's time for us to set off," said Tan Xiu. "Let's go. I'll set up the 9th deserted island as a battlefield for us to contend with the invading enemies. Also, you need to do something. Gather all the children who have broken through to the late stage of qi refining. I'm going to give them special training for a few days." Mo On nodded and said, "Except for the late stage of qi refining, do we need to gather them to break through to the foundation establishment stage?" "What did you say?" Tan Xiu was stunned and asked blankly. Mo On said, "Foundation establishment stage." "Sect Master, since you want to carry out special training for the children at the late stage of qi refining, do you still need special training for those who have broken through to the foundation establishment stage?" "You mean, some of those children have broken through to the foundation establishment stage?" asked Tan Xiu incredulously. "How is that possible? How could any of them have broken through to the foundation establishment stage in such a short time?" "Indeed. I'm also quite surprised," said Mo On with a smile. "But it's the truth. 9 of them have broken through to the foundation establishment stage, and the most powerful one among them has broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment." Tan Xiu suddenly got up and asked in a deep voice, "What's his name?" 28, answered Mo On. "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. "He's called 28, said Mo On with a forced smile. "When he was sent here by Ban's Ho, others called him a little beggar, a wild child, and so on. But he said he's called 28. As for why he gave himself this name, I don't know." "Where is he now?" asked Tan Xiu. "He's in the training camp. Due to his special nature, he rarely participates in group training. Most of the time, he stays in his room and cultivates alone," said Mo On. "As for the other 8 children who have broken through to the foundation establishment stage, they are also waiting for my special training," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "As for this 28, go find him immediately. I need to see him." Mo On complied and immediately sprinted toward the training camp. Just as Tan Xiu appeared on the helipad of 9 Dragons Island, Mo On and a thin boy of 7 or 8 years old rushed over like the wind. "Sect Master, he's 28. Looking at the thin boy in front of him, Tan Xiu could tell from his aura that the boy had indeed broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment stage. What made Tan Xiu feel inconceivable was that the boy's aura was very stable. It was obvious that he had stabilized his realm. "You're 28. The thin boy had a maturity that ordinary children didn't have. He even looked like an adult as he clenched his fists, placed them on his left chest, and bowed, saying, "Boss, I'm 28. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and observed him for a full minute. Then, he nodded with satisfaction and said, "You're very good. You can stand out from thousands of people and be the first to break through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment stage. This is far beyond my expectation. However, I have a question I'd like to know. Why did you name yourself 28? For 3 years, from the age of 4 to 7, I barely had enough to eat and wear warm clothes," said the thin boy. "I saved 28 yuan in total. If I had saved 28 yuan when I was 4, my grandmother and sister wouldn't have starved to death. So, I'm called 28. I'll always remember the number 28. Tan Xiu nodded silently and said, "Stretch out your left hand." Chapter 994. Half a minute later. Tan Xiu checked 28's pulse and figured out his physical condition. What puzzled him was that although 28's physique was good, it was far from being amazing. Yet, in less than a year, he had leaped from a precarious child to a cultivator at the mid-stage of foundation establishment. This speed was way too fast. "Tell me, is there anything special about your usual cultivation?" "There's nothing special about it," said 28. "I just follow the cultivation method taught by the instructor and constantly circulate the true essence inside my body every day. I don't know why my cultivation speed is faster than others." Tan Xiu was even more surprised and asked, "That's it?" "That's it." 28 nodded. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. Just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly changed and a look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. He hurriedly asked, "You just said that you constantly circulate the true essence inside your body every day? Is there no time for you to stop?" "Yeah." 28 nodded. "Isn't cultivation supposed to be like this?" Tan Xiu grabbed 28's wrist again. As his spiritual sense entered his body, Tan Xiu finally found something unusual about him. His meridians were very wide, but what shocked him the most was that 28's meridian wall was somewhat different from that of ordinary people. It was much more flexible, and there were even tiny blood-colored red spots faintly visible on it. Blood scripture. He actually has a blood scripture. Tan Xiu was so shocked by this discovery that he was speechless for a long time. When he was in the immortal world, he once read a record in a hidden ancient book. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, a peerless genius with a blood scripture physique appeared in the immortal world. That genius only took more than 2,000 years to successfully cultivate to the perfected golden immortal stage. It was a pity that he died in the hands of a supreme. Otherwise, he would have been able to break through to the supremacy stage in another 1,000 years with his potential. Even that ancient book recorded that if that peerless genius did not die prematurely, he would have been the most promising one to break through to the godhood stage at that time. And before his eyes, another cultivation genius with a blood scripture physique appeared? What was even more inconceivable was that he actually appeared on Earth. "Boss, 28 didn't understand why Tan Xiu kept grabbing his wrist and didn't loosen his grip, but he didn't feel any malice coming from Tan Xiu. Ever since he was found in the garbage dump a year ago and sent to Shanghai, he had seen his boss, Tan Xiu, in front of him. He didn't understand why Tan Xiu wanted to adopt him and so many other children. But he understood one thing. It was Tan Xiu who gave him food, drink, clothes, and use. Most importantly, Tan Xiu sent people to teach them cultivation techniques, allowing them to possess great power. Therefore, like tens of thousands of other children, he treated Tan Xiu as their boss on the surface, but in his heart, he treated Tan Xiu as his family, or even the closest person to him. Like the other children, he was willing to be loyal to Tan Xiu and give everything to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt 28. After releasing his hand, he solemnly asked, 28, "I'm going to give you a surname. Do you want it?" "A surname?" 28's eyes lit up and he nodded. "I do." "If so, then you'll be called Tang 28 from now on," said Tan Xiu. 28 was excited. He knew that some of the children who trained with him were given surnames by the boss, such as Jin, Mu, Shui, Hua, and Tuesday. The 5 of them were named Tang Jin, Tang Mu, Tang Shui, Tang Hua, and Tang Tu respectively. Now, he also had a surname, which was Tang after his boss's surname. Alright. I'm already called Tang 28. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and said, Tang 28, do you want to be different from others? Do you want to have a higher cultivation and more powerful strength in the future? I do, said Tang 28 aloud. Only by becoming stronger can I have enough to eat, have a place to live, have clothes to wear, and be able to protect you, boss. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He secretly admired the brainwashing methods of the drill instructors. It only took him a year or so to make these children remember his figure in their hearts. Tang 28. From now on, you'll leave the training camp and be Tan Xiu's shadow. I'll give you the authority to pick 4 companions from the training camp and have them follow you at all times, listening to your commands at all times. Go. I hope you can bring your chosen partners and wait for my return here a few days later. I'll be waiting for you, boss. Tang 28 firmly nodded. Remember, don't call me boss from now on. You must call me sect master, said Tan Xiu. I'll send someone to record your name in the Tang sect's register. You'll also be a new disciple of the Tang sect. Tang sect? Tang 28 silently engraved the name in his heart and nodded. Shortly after, 2 helicopters roared and flew toward the 9th deserted island. After an hour or 2 of flight, they arrived at the 9th deserted island. At this time, some people were already stationed on the 9th deserted island. The number of people was not big, but there were still more than 20 of them. Whoosh! 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 Figures flickered lightning fast from the 2 helicopters' hatches and quickly landed on the 9th deserted island. Old Angie and Chen Yan were among the more than 20 people who had been waiting for a long time. Most of them were felons rescued by Tan Xiu from labor camp number 1319, and only a few of them were former peripheral members of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Boss! They were in a neat formation with a somber atmosphere. Upon seeing Tan Xiu's arrival, more than 20 people immediately looked fanatical and shouted loudly. Tan Xiu looked at the people in front of him and was secretly satisfied, especially the nearly 20 felons he had rescued from labor camp number 1319. The current them were as though they had been reborn. Their previous undisciplined personalities were nowhere to be seen, and they exuded the aura of iron-blooded warriors. Greetings, everyone. Tan Xiu glanced at each of them and finally nodded. I haven't seen you for a few months, and you've all grown a lot. What surprises me the most is that each of you has stepped into the threshold of being a cultivator and become experts at the qi refining stage. Tell me, do you regret the choice you made? No, I don't. More than 20 people roared in unison. Very well. Tan Xiu nodded and said, since you don't regret it, then I hope you won't regret it later. We're about to face powerhouses from major forces all over the world. Many of them are powerhouses among powerhouses, even comparable to Golden Core stage powerhouses. You'll be participating in the battle. I want to know, are you afraid? No. More than 20 people roared again. Very well. Tan Xiu nodded and said, since you're not afraid, then seize the time to cultivate and get ready for the battle. If any of you can make great contributions in the upcoming battle, you can join the Tang sect as long as your cultivation breaks through to the foundation establishment stage. I think you've heard the name of the Tang sect in the last 2 days. That's great. I've heard of it. It's an opportunity. More than 20 people looked pleasantly surprised and a fighting flame burned in their eyes. If they wanted to become stronger and go further, they must strive to become disciples of the Tang sect. This was something they had figured out in the last 2 days. As long as they became disciples of the Tang sect, they would be able to obtain more cultivation resources, learn more cultivation secret manuals, and master more abilities. This was an opportunity. It was just like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. As long as they could get a lot of contributions and break through to the foundation establishment stage, it was tantamount to success. I still have some things to deal with, so you can go, said Tan Xiu. Shortly after, Tan Xiu spent a lot of materials to cover the entire 9th barren island. In fact, he even set up an illusory formation inside the island's protective formation. Anyone who could break the outer layer of the island's protective array would see the illusion array. Once they entered it, it would be equivalent to entering an illusion. The 9th barren island. It was the place that replaced the 9 Dragons Island and was about to be exposed to the eyes of the major forces. It was also the main battlefield. After arranging everything, Tan Xiu didn't hurry to leave. Instead, he issued an order for a large number of peripheral members to come and participate in the upcoming battle. What's the date today, On? Standing on the coastline of the 9th barren island, Tan Xiu suddenly asked. Today is the 4th of September, Sect Master, answered Mo On. The 4th of September. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before a wry smile appeared on his face. On this date, Shanghai University had already started its semester, and he skipped classes at the beginning of his sophomore year. I gotta go back as soon as possible. Tan Xiu recalled the Violet Fairy in his interspatial ring and Han Qinggu. He also needed to use the Violet Fairy to verify it because he was very concerned about the result of the verification. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast from the distant sea and soon stood in front of Tan Xiu and Mo On. It was none other than Spectre. I have something to report, boss. What's the matter? Asked Tan Xiu. A liner has been wandering in the nearby sea recently, said Spectre. To our surprise, there's no one outside the liner. It's as if there's no one on the entire liner. I sneaked to the surface and found that there were only a dozen crew members on the liner. But when I asked the crew, they said that there's a guest on the liner who rented the ship and asked them to come here. It's strange that we couldn't find any trace of her when we searched together. You didn't ask who she is? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. I only know that she's a woman in her 20s or 30s, said Spectre with a wry smile. She always wears a black robe and a mask on her face, so the crew members don't know what she looks like. That's right, this woman is proficient in music. She played several musical instruments while drifting on the sea. The music she plays is very beautiful. Proficient in music? Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed. He suddenly recalled the time when he fought with Death Diana Buddhist master in Bangkok in Tea Country. There was an expert who was proficient in music. She never showed up, and the people he sent to look for her didn't find her either. Could it be, was the mysterious woman on the liner the same person who helped him in Bangkok in Tea Country? If not, then she might just be a bit mysterious. But if she was, then who was she? How could she appear and disappear so mysteriously and always appear in the vicinity of his place? Where's that liner now? Asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. It's only about 100 nautical miles away from the 9th barren island, said Spectre. But that liner has been sailing aimlessly in the nearby sea for a long time. It's estimated that it's time to return. Take me to that liner, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. I want to figure out who's playing tricks on us. Chapter 995. The sky was blue and the wind was gentle. A top-of-the-line military helicopter with a black configuration was overlooking the sea like a goshawk as it flew toward the northeast direction of the 9th barren island. Inside the helicopter, Tan Xiu was observing the sea below with a pair of binoculars, looking for the lone liner that was drifting alone. A few hours later, when the helicopter's fuel was about to run out, he still couldn't find any trace of the liner, so he had no choice but to return to the 9th barren island. Forget it. Although Tan Xiu was curious about the mysterious man who was proficient in music, he had a faint feeling that the other party was a friend and not an enemy. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have helped him in Bangkok in Tea Country. After putting this matter aside for the time being, Tan Xiu then paid attention to the situation on the 9th deserted island. He had ordered the peripheral members stationed on the other deserted islands in the surroundings to only leave 2 people to hide and observe in the dark, while the rest were to evacuate to the 9th deserted island. Hence, the passenger ships that came from other places transported the members under his command to the 9th deserted island. Cut down trees and build houses. Build this place into a base as soon as possible. After leaving an order, Tan Xiu handed over the responsibility of managing this place to Mo, Jin Shi, Tang An, and Ji Qimei. With a super powerhouse like Ji Qimei around, there wouldn't be any hidden dangers even if a large number of nascent soul stage enemies came, so Tan Xiu was quite relieved. Half a day later, Tan Xiu returned to 9 Dragons Island. Just as the helicopter landed, he saw Tang 28 and the other 4 boys sitting cross-legged on the shore. All of them were about 8 years old. Aside from Tang 28, the other 4 boys were very strong and vigorous, destined to become burly men in the future. Grand Master Gu Xiaoxue came and asked after seeing Tan Xiu, "What's your next plan, sir? Are you going to leave 9 Dragons Island to command the battle on the 9th Barren Island?" According to the analysis of the current situation, the world's major forces shouldn't be going to war with our people in a short time. Tan Xiu shook his head. It's already September and Demon Capital University has started its semester. I need to report there and verify something while I'm at it. Gu Xiaoxue nodded and said, "Miss Zhang also wants to return to China. Will you take her with you?" "She'll go back with me." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "She'll go back with me. After all, she's a modern person and has her own life to continue. I'll bring her to 9 Dragons Island when she can see through the secular world. Yen Er is currently in seclusion to heal, so I won't tell her about my departure. You can tell her after she finishes healing. Perhaps, it won't be long before I return." Gu Xiaoxue said, "I'll tell Master." Grand Master, if you let Mo and Jin Shi take charge of the 9th island, who will go back with you? You need someone to follow you. Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "Forget it this time. I'll take Tang 28 and the other 4 back. They can help me with some trivial matters." Gu Xiaoxue hesitated and said, "Although their strength is not bad and they have already broken through to the foundation establishment stage, they are too young and it is not convenient for them to do many things. Do you want to bring more people?" "No need." Tan Xiu shook his head. Shortly after, Tan Xiu came to the southeast training ground. 842 Boy Scouts who had broken through to the mid-stage of Qi refining and 128 who had broken through to the late stage of Qi refining had been gathered here. All of them sat cross-legged on the huge training ground, silently cultivating. 2 men and 2 women, for Boy Scouts who had broken through to the early stage of foundation establishment, sat cross-legged on 4 square stone platforms that were half a meter high and 2 meters long and wide. "Halt your cultivation and stand up." Wolf Head, who wore a black uniform and had a grim expression, immediately shouted upon seeing Tan Xiu's arrival. His voice was as loud as a great bell that spread throughout the training ground. The 974 Boy Scouts who had been gathered here instantly opened their eyes upon hearing the voice. They swiftly got up and stood straight as they looked at Tang Xiu who had just arrived. "Boss." All of them had seen Tan Xiu before. Each of them even had a picture of Tan Xiu, the master they needed to be loyal to in this life. Tan Xiu glanced at them and nodded with satisfaction. Then, he shouted, "You should have heard that the Tang sect has been officially established and its rules and regulations will be more and more perfect. Children like you who were brought to 9 Dragons Island have yet to have the opportunity to join the sect and become official disciples of the Tang sect. All of you are talented children in cultivation and are the future pillars of the Tang sect. But you must prove your worth if you want to pass the test and become a member of the Tang sect. First, you must make great contributions. The greater the contribution, the more likely you are to join the Tang sect in the future. Second, your cultivation must break through to the golden core stage. The disciples of Tang sect need powerhouses, not trash. You can stand out among tens of thousands of Boy Scouts, and even the weakest among you has broken through to the mid-stage of Qi refining. This shows that you are worthy of training. I'll conduct special training for you in the next 3 days. This special training will be very hard, tiring, and even life-threatening. However, all of you must persevere. At this moment, Tan Xiu showed his ruthless side. He knew very well that only by putting pressure on these children would they be able to work harder. Only by putting in more effort in cultivation would they have a greater chance of survival in the future when they have to fight for their lives. The first day, Tan Xiu arranged an illusion array in the training ground. Due to the children's cultivation being too low, the array's power was very weak. As long as they didn't lower their guard and could burst out with the strength of the mid-stage of qi refining, they could survive inside. The illusion array could make people lose themselves and also temper their minds. The 979 children, including Tang 28, were facing an endless stream of enemies. These enemies were slightly weaker than them, but there were a lot of them. Furthermore, Tan Xiu also created children of the same age in the illusion array so that they could adapt to the fight. However, as they fought, the enemies grew older and older. In the end, the ones they fought were all burly men. An hour later, a round of fighting. An hour later, they recovered their strength with the help of medicinal pills. For a full 12 hours, the 979 children had all experienced 12 battles. Every time, the number of enemies was more than 200. Although Tan Xiu said that he would let them fight alone, he was secretly controlling the entire illusion array. Whenever the children were facing death, he would secretly go easy on them, gradually enriching their combat experience. The second day, Tan Xiu took everyone away from Nine Dragons Island and went down to withstand the pressure of the seawater. He also set a strict rule that they could only dive to a great depth, which was almost the limit of the children. The third day, Tan Xiu fought against the 979 children alone. Whether they were besieging him or fighting him alone, he took them all on. He also gave them pointers on fighting skills and even taught them spells. After ravaging them, the children kept gaining benefits and making rapid progress. The fourth day, Tan Xiu taught them the method to cultivate their spiritual sense, allowing them to comprehend the results of the past few days' training. If they encountered something they didn't understand, he would carefully explain it to them. If they encountered a lack of resources, he would take out a lot of medicinal pills. In the end, he asked all the children to write down their gains in the past few days and share them with others. At last, after 4 days of special training, the children made rapid progress. 36 of them broke through from the middle stage of qi refining to the late stage, and 5 of them broke through to the early stage of foundation establishment. Tan Xiu believed that it wouldn't take long for these children to make breakthroughs after these days of special training and the provision of a large number of resources. Some of them could even improve by 1 or 2 levels in a short time. September 10th. Tang Xiu then took Zhang Xinya, Tang 28, and his 4 chosen companions to set foot on Huaxia's territory again. Zhang Xinya looked a little excited the moment they came out of the Shanghai airport. Although she was wearing big sunglasses and a mask, Tan Xiu could still feel her excitement. "Now that you're back, live a good life." Tan Xiu held her hand and said with a smile. Zhang Xinya nodded repeatedly. She seemed to recall something and began to look around as though she was looking for something. Soon, she locked onto a girl who was dressed similarly to her. She was wearing sunglasses, a mask, and a cap. "Here." Zhang Xinya waved and saw the girl coming over. She released Tan Xiu's hand and strode forward to greet her. After hugging the girl, she smiled and said, "I told you not to pick me up, but you didn't listen." Zhang Xinyue had just seen the scene of Tan Xiu and her sister holding hands. She tried to conceal her complicated feelings and pretended to be calm. She smiled and said, "You finally came back from abroad, big sis. Of course I have to pick you up personally. Did brother-in-law bully you these days?" "Brother-in-law?" The smile on Zhang Xinya's face faded a bit. She turned to look at Tan Xiu and suddenly whispered, Xinyue, you're not allowed to call Tan Xiu brother-in-law in the future. Huh? Zhang Xinyue stared blankly and was somewhat at a loss. I already know what happened between you two. You don't need to explain anything to me. Tan Xiu has already told me about it, said Zhang Xinya in a low voice. Let's talk about it when we get back. In any case, you can just call him Tan Xiu in the future. Zhang Xinyue opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. She was a bit angry inwardly. She was angry at Tan Xiu for telling this matter to her elder sister, Zhang Xinya. She didn't even know how to face her elder sister at this moment. Zhang Xinya knew her younger sister very well. She told her sister to come back in advance because she wanted to find an opportunity to let her understand something. She had long guessed that her younger sister would have such a reaction. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.